What is going on, YouTube people? New York Cards and Comics here for a little impromptu Saturday night live edition. Figured we'd pop on for just a little bit, do a little chit chat, see what's going on. Probably won't go super long, though. I say that all the time, and we end up going longer than I think. Just gonna tweet out the old link to this real quick. But just got done recording tomorrow morning's video and figured had everything all situated and set up. Why not fire it up? I haven't done a live for, when's the last live that I did? Last time I was live was a couple weeks ago, I think. May 24th. Holy smokes. It's been a whole month. I haven't gone live for a month. Jeez Louise. You guys got to hold me more accountable on that stuff. Holy smokes. Not realize it had been a month since the last time I did a live. What's up, Toy Story? What's up, T? What's up, Toy Story? Reset up this weekend anywhere? Anyone at Chantilly? Was anyone at Chantilly show? I saw that was going on this weekend. I had given some thoughts to attending the Chantilly show, but with Heroes Con last weekend and the National a month away, I just figured it wasn't worth running down there. I'm sure I would have had a good time, but wanted to save some cash after spending a ton of money last week at Heroes Con. That video will be up to tomorrow. Tomorrow's Heroes Con recap will be up. I had that video recorded for a full week and kept having to push it back because of all the Topps Fanatics stuff kind of took over the week and the CGC news and all that stuff. Oh, Jeff Wilson was at the National or at Chantilly this weekend? I didn't realize that. What'd you pick up, Floppy? Looked busy. I saw some stuff on the old IGs. I know they had a really loaded autographed guest list, which they typically do for Chantilly. But I wasn't sure. I was curious how I saw. I think Bobbles was there and said pricing seemed high on a lot of stuff. I really haven't bought sports card wise, other than some Manny Ramirez stuff. Most of my money recently has been going to the non-sports section. So no, CGC Comics won't change their slab now. Not at all. I think I don't want to say I have confirmation on that, but I have a fairly good vibe. They are not changing anything. This was exclusive to the sports card side. They're not crazy. I do not believe that the comic book label will be changing at all. I will be. I talk about this at the top of tomorrow's video. I will be interviewing Matt and Andy on Monday afternoon. That'll be pre-recorded, not live, so it won't be a live stream. But Matt and Andy from CGC Cards will be on Monday. So if you have questions for them, put them in that put them in the comment section of tomorrow's video on the weekly sports card market update if you have CGC specific questions. Because like I said, I'll have Matt, who is head of CGC Cards, and Andy, who is head of the CSG side of things on the sports card side. Andy's been on the channel before, but I've never interviewed Matt before. So I'll be sitting down with them Monday, and that video will probably, I anticipate it going up immediately the next morning. So that'll probably go up Tuesday morning for that video. So this has been in the works for a while, the CGC thing. I know at least multiple months. I was part of, I did check with them. I am allowed to say this. I was part of the focus groups that they had. So I knew something was coming. I didn't know the specifics, so I wasn't sure what they settled on. But I don't think I could get into the details of the focus groups specifically. And I don't know everyone that was involved. They were one-on-ones, at least the ones that I was part of. So, but they had been working on this for a while. I don't know everyone that they talked to besides myself. So, but I believe that it was a long list on multiple sides of the TCG side and the sports card side of things. So we'll see how that shakes out. I am really in a bind on what to do with their stuff, to be quite frank. I have a rather large decision that I need to make that I was not planning on making. I have I had started on it. I didn't get very far on it because I thought I'd have plenty of time. So I probably only have about 10 or 15% of the set. But I've been working on, the 92 Jim Lee X-Men set in a CGC 9.5 or better, essentially. And I have, I don't know, 15 of them probably at this point. So long ways to go. It's a 100 card set. So I'm kind of in a bind of, I got to double check. I believe you have until July 10th to send things in to get graded and still have it slabbed in the blue label. So if I want it in the blue label, I got to ship like 80 cards off to get graded by them in the next week and a half, basically. And I don't even know. I have a bunch of raw stuff laying around from that set, but I'm not sure how many of it's grade worthy. I have one box sitting here that I could rip, and I don't know if I want to go for it in the blue label set or convert it over to the new label. In my opinion, the CGC blue label on Marvel cards was its best, and specifically on the Jim Lee set, it's perfect for it. I mean, these labels look, you couldn't ask for a better label to go with a card than this 92 Jim Lee set, because it's the light blue, in my opinion, plays very well with that 90s style card with like that purple and the blue around the X-Men, and like the some of them have the teal like outline like that. The labels just look so good on those cards. But if I want it now, I got to grade. I made a spreadsheet the other day. It's like 80 cards at, I don't know, $12 a pop or whatever it is, 15. I don't remember what it is for CGC bulk. I have a membership, so I get the discount, but you're talking like $800 or $900. And the cards aren't rare or anything like that. But now it's like, do I just say screw it and move it over? Or is there some unique long-term, I hate to even use the words value, but is there, I don't know, how many, if I complete the set of this in the CGC blue label, how many of those are going to be out there? How many complete sets of 92 Jim Lee X-Men will be in the old school blue label, and does that matter? Are people going to care about that, or is it just a me thing? Or do I just say screw it and move it over to the new label? That would obviously buy me a lot of time, and I have a feeling they're going to shake up pricing as well. They said pricing is going to change. Currently, CGC, which I'll be very curious to see what they do with pricing. I'll ask this on Monday, but I doubt they'll tell me anything. Right now, it is more expensive to grade with CGC than it is CSG. A CSG bulk card is less than a CGC bulk card. I don't remember the specifics amount, but it's a couple bucks per card that adds up on a large submission. So I either have to pay $5 to get these reholdered or send a pile of cards in to go under the old label all at once, which I was not expecting to do a month before the National, or just say screw it and give up on it, basically. Just let it die. So I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to do with that, but I don't have a lot of time to figure it out, unfortunately. So I don't know. I'm going to bind on that one. Let me get caught up on chat a little bit here. Toy Store. I'm liking most of the Fanatics new card shop rules. I think I'm going to give me a real shot to open my shop. I like modern card shop platforms. Yeah. I think generally speaking, there's been an interesting divide. I actually talk about this on the video tomorrow. There's been an interesting divide on the thought processes coming out of this. A lot of people are like, "Oh yeah, this is cool. Like I'm glad they're finally holding these shops accountable." And then there's like a certain percentage of people that just immediately yell monopoly at everything and how this is terrible and bad. There's going to be some good that probably comes with this, and probably also some bad that comes along with it. Uh, Holiday content. I feel all this news with Fanatics this week, all the vintage dealers and collectors have to be sitting back and laughing their asses off. I mean, maybe. Yeah, Ultramodern basketball is definitely taking a larger hit. I keep meaning to do kind of like a 1 year look back and see if anything actually went up over the last year. And once again, I just have not had time. Yeah, shows definitely seem to be slowing down a little bit as we're in the peak summertime traveling. Yeah, PSA specials are 100% backed up. Like 100%. I talked to multiple people and had multiple people comment that, excuse me, that they had special ship off and it's taking anywhere from 10 to 14 days to get checked in to the system. So PSA is definitely running behind, I think specifically on the receiving end of things. I did get back. I'll record a video on it tomorrow, but the Cam Collier green from Sapphire came back in the mail this week. I picked it up from FedEx that I had sent off on the regular service. So that came back. We'll talk about that in its own video. I won't spoil the grade here, but if you really want to know the grade, you could find it easily enough. So, but yeah, the 90s specific special, that seems to have been very popular. I've also heard some news, not news, but just some people in comments and chat and messages that, and if anyone in the comments has any recent feedback on this, that SGC seems to be slowing down ever so slightly. And once again, they're still very fast, but it seems like their orders are running a little bit behind. And once again, it's still like things are turning around in a week or two, but people were used to days. And now they seem to be slowing down a little bit. I wonder if their new specials as well have been fairly popular. What's up, Ziggy? I got an auto McFarlane card that's a 9.5. If I send it in, do I get the crap label or the cool one it was originally came with? That's a good question on the signature series stuff. Because I have the same thing. So I have the McFarlane. So this would now be a Gem Mint 10 under the new. I assume you would get the signature series label because that was a specific label designed for that. But that is something I would definitely want to check. I did not think about that. I will ask them that on Monday or reach out to my contact over there prior to, because I did not think about that. That would actually be one that I would send in to get the bump to Gem Mint 10. I think I only have 2 of those left, and my other one is not. Yeah, my other one's just a straight Mint 9 from that. Oh, wait, no, I do have other ones from that. That's a good point. What else do I have? I have these 2 that I kept. So this would go to a Gem Mint 10 with that. And this would stay an 8.5 because that's not changing. But I 99% sure the signature series label is not changing, but I would assume the grading scale would. So what's up, Bush League? I got one Lord of the Rings collector box. Rudy Alpha Investments ran his Patreon sale, and he ran them for $3.99 a box. I snagged one. I don't have it yet. He printed a shipping label for it, but it hasn't actually shipped yet. And I got a 2 sets of Commander decks from Rudy as well, from the Lord of the Rings stuff. Yeah, that's my biggest issue, is the blue label going away for comics. I get why they did it overall. I don't know how the Pokemon people feel about the blue label. The blue label makes a million percent sense on Marvel stuff. It does not. I don't think sports cards would look good with this label. So I get why they wanted to come up with something that was kind of neutral, but I don't know. Everyone complains about their retail clothing. I've never had an issue. No, it didn't green a PSA 6. Yeah, the 101's been talked to death. I don't know that it needs its own video or not. Yeah, I bought the 1 box, Ziggy. Anytime they put a big bounty on stuff like that, that's just what's going to happen. Sorry, just playing catch up on chat here. What's up, Not Sports Cards? I'm good at the moment. Thanks for the offer, though. Are any of those Marvel cards particularly valuable? We're not familiar. Blah, 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 blah. Like the ones I'm specifically showing, the X-Men ones? No, not really. These aren't like huge cards or anything. They're just a base set. Just a fun set that I collected when I was a kid. I just really like them because it's all Jim Lee artwork. Swaggle in the house. What's up, buddy? What's the fallout gonna be with literally everyone bailing from San Diego Comic-Con? Is that gonna have some big market impacts? I mean, I'll ask them this on Monday, but the way that I understand it is they just wanted uniformity across everything. Yeah, I think it just comes down to them once, like I just kind of answered above. They just wanted uniformity across everything. I'm not big on the Weiss Schwartz stuff. It's cool, but yeah, that's definitely one of the questions on my list for sure. Because most of the like this stuff is a PC play for me, and I like for PC stuff, whatever about the label, CGC has the best slabs by a mile, and it's not even close. Cards look so much better in CGC slabs, it's not even funny. So I mean that's why I like to grade Marvel with them. Even, well, before with the label switch, with the blue label match, it was really good, but like refractors and stuff, they just look so much better in the CGC slabs because they're crystal freaking clear. I can't say that enough. Listen, say what you will about CGC and their secondary market performances. The slabs look absolutely gorgeous with refractor style, really any cards, because the plastic is like just absolutely crystal clear. If you haven't had one in hand, I would highly recommend getting one in hand. Cards just pop so much on them. I still have my loop credit. I tried to spend it and just could never find anything. I did see the whatnot thing. Yeah, I think this is the thing. On the front end, it sounds simple. Let the people pick what they want for a label, but on the back end, I think that gets a little tricky. That being said, I don't know that it would have been the worst idea ever just to keep all Marvel in the blue label. I think those are the people that care the most about the blue label. I get wanting to have brand uniformity from a marketing perspective. But if you were going to keep one thing in the blue label exclusively, it should be the Marvel stuff. Uh, this is, They're well aware of this. This is not earth-shattering news that Marvel people were going to be pissed about the blue label going away. Yeah, I don't know how many are on the pop report. It's probably not many. It did okay. I'm not running to the moon with it, that's for sure. So if that kind of gives it away, it's not a disaster, but it wasn't a W, that's for sure. Retail variant, okay. Yeah, the writer's strike is because there's nothing to announce because they can't do anything. Swag, if you want to pop on, you can. Let me know. Just DM me. Yeah, if you want something greater for PC, CGC is 100% the path to go. Their slabs are so freaking nice. Usually you're cooking dinner when you're watching my live streams. So if you're not cooking dinner and you want to pop on for a little bit, let me know. I'm streaming later than normal, so maybe it's not Swaggle House dinner time. I'll hold this in case Swags jumps on and we can talk about it. Essentially, the panels aren't really like the Hall H panels, like the big announcements. The oh my god, here's the new trailer for a movie that comes out in 20 years. All the casting stuff, all that jazz. That sort of stuff is basically not happening because of San Diego or because of the writer's strike. Because of the writer's strike, there is nothing really going on. They can't really film and announce stuff. It is a little tricky. Give me 1 second. We're gonna have a little impromptu guest here. Get this sent over to him real quick. It's not. It's. I mean, on paper, it sounds like it would be super easy Bush League, but I don't. It's. I have a feeling it's a little bit more complex than that, especially if you're letting the customer choose. It's just not as simple as that. I have not bought any football cards in a while. A lot of people talk about this conspiracy theory of splitting larger orders up into smaller orders. I don't know. To me, it's just whatevs. I would consider doing that if I wasn't having them shipped back to me. If you were just going to send them to the Golden Vault, because shipping back from PSA can get a little pricey. All right, I see you. You good, Swags? Give me a thumbs up. You're good. Okay. Special guests. Last minute edition.
Impromptu.
What's up, Swags?
What's going on? How's it going tonight?
That's
it's funny because you did start a little bit later. I just finished dinner, so I was like, "Oh yeah, I can hop on for a little bit."
Usually, I'm always streaming, and I say, "You want to hop on?" And you're like, "Nope, cooking dinner, can't."
Yeah. Now it's like 7:30. It's like 6 o'clock is dinner time. I think this is a well-established meme in like the Sports Center space.
Yeah, this is late for me. I was recording tomorrow's video, and I finished up. And I'm like, I haven't done a live for a while. Let me just kind of fire one up for a short little bit. And then I actually really didn't realize it was as late as it was when I fired it up for us East Coast lifters out here. So, yeah, give for my audience that may or may not be aware, can you kind of give the a quick San Diego Comic-Con, like what is kind of happening with that right now, and what that could entail from a comic perspective?
Yeah, I would, it's a lot of speculation because, it's just sort of come out, but kind of what you were saying earlier is, usually at San Diego Comic-Con, you get the big MCU panel, or you can get the, other movie panels. And that's where they have the big PR stuff where they parade out the actors or they announce the latest movies. So if there's like Marvel fans in the chat right now, it's like, that's when we got the official announcement last year for Avengers, Secret Wars, and Kang Dynasty and those types of things. So this year they pulled out. It's not unprecedented. There's been years where they've missed it, but typically this is like a big PR event. And then kind of what you were getting at, usually that leads to some, or I'd say a lot of movement in the comic book market, or speculation, or there's a lot of FOMO for like a couple weeks or whatever it is, and a lot of movement there. So in an already down market, I think that this is just going to make things even less liquid at the moment. But I suspect people want to spend money on something. So I suspect there's going to be some retail variant or exclusive, or all the rage right now in the comic market is I don't know if you've caught wind of this thing called Void Rivals, but
That's the GI Joe Transformers thing, right?
yeah. So if anyone saw Rise of the Beasts, there's a little Easter egg at the end of the Transformers movie, and there's this push to do this shared universe right now, and so everyone's back on the GI Joe Transformer train. That's kind of taken over.
Hey, as an 80s kid, I can't complain about getting on the GI Joe Transformers
Yeah.
train.
So,
I lived on that stuff for most of my youth life. For sure was built around that. When is San Diego's what? August? Is that when is San Diego Comic Con?
It's going to be third weekend. It's like basically July 21, kind of around that. It's like the third weekend.
Oh, okay. So it's not that far away. So this is kind of last minute for them to kind of yank the cord on this.
Yeah, I think that, I wonder if, so a lot of the speculation is, I think first week of July, we're going to find out if SAG goes on strike, which SAG is the Actors Guild. So if that happens, then any plans that they had to say, bring out Ryan Reynolds and have him address the crowd, like things like that, like none of those actors would be allowed to participate anyway. So I would say that this is probably an indication that SAG is going to strike. Now, maybe Marvel is using this as like hey, we don't really have anything to announce. Like the PR for our franchise is pretty bad as it is currently. Like maybe we can just cut some costs and not worry about doing this. And so maybe that's why they're doing it, or maybe they don't have anything exciting to announce. Like, I don't know, maybe like a lot of people had thought that, this would be the perfect time for them to roll out the Fantastic Four cast. But like the rumor mill is saying that maybe that hasn't been figured out still. So, who knows what it is, but they're not the only studio that has pulled out of their big panel.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. I just bought my tickets for New York City Comic Con this past week when they went on general sale. Now, I'm not usually a big panel guy. New York City Comic Con, though, being probably the second biggest behind San Diego, they are not known as much for the panel side of things. Like I don't think there's a Hall H equivalent. I mean, I went to some panels last year, but there was not like a Marvel Studios panel or anything like that. And that's in October. I wonder, could they pivot to NYCC and I don't think things will get settled this quickly, but if a writer's strike got settled in the next month or two, I wonder if they would look to pivot to New York City Comic Con and kind of sneak into there, almost as if they had announcements they wanted to get off their chest, but they could always just wait for like a Disney thing and do it that way too.
Yeah, there's the
was it D23?
Yeah, D23. That's what it is. And so I almost wonder if I don't know how long D23 has been a thing, but I could imagine some suits at Disney are sort of like, why are we paying to make all these hype announcements at a convention that's not ours? We should just do it at our own thing. So maybe this is like a precursor to like, them.
I mean, you probably know this better than anyone else, as I believe you kind of live in that world. I mean, the video game industry went through the same thing with E3. Yes. Where it was like E3 was the biggest deal in the world, and then all of a sudden Microsoft and Sony and Activision realized, wait, we could just literally just do our own press conference and everyone's going to cover it the same. If not get more traction on it because we're not sharing the same week with everybody else. Sony could do their own thing in mid-May or whatever, and it gets all the attention instead of doing it at E3 and splitting it across whatever Nintendo's doing and Xbox is doing and PC or whatever else.
100%. That's what, Nintendo does that, and Blizzard famously did that, right? They had their own.
Yeah, Blizzard was kind of the first, right, with BlizzCon. Like they were, because that's been going on for almost a decade now that they were rolling, and that wasn't like an annual thing, but they kind of took control of that and brought it under their own wing. Yeah.
But then the irony becomes like, then it becomes a super expensive cost for Blizzard, and then it's like, it's actually less for us to just do an E3, So it's like I don't know. I have a feeling if they kick the can down the road and they do all this stuff at D23 and yeah, it'll be interesting to see if that's where they go with it or if they stay at San Diego. But I don't know. It's I don't know how you feel about the Marvel stuff, but they got to right the ship. They got to right the ship.
There definitely seems to be some Marvel fatigue. It actually snuck up on me. I knew that Secret Invasion was coming out, and I knew that it was coming out very soon. And then Wednesday rolled around, and I saw something. I think it was like, some reactor video or whatever popped up on my YouTube feed, and I was like, "Oh shit, that was this week. I guess I need to go watch that on Wednesday afternoon." It kind of snuck up on me a little bit there. Given the cast on that show, you would, and they have advertised it a lot, but it just seemed like it really kind of snuck under the radar.
Yeah, that was like literally like the video I did this past week talking about Secret Wars was kind of to that joke, like to that point, like zero market movement, zero hype, like nobody even just on Instagram, I see zero people just talking about the fact that the show was coming out. And that's probably a concerning thing, I think, for their marketing department.
Yeah, and the first episode was fine. It wasn't like, oh my god, this is crazy, but it also wasn't like, I don't know, it wasn't terrible. It was just an episode of TV, basically.
Yeah.
So, I don't know if I saw the same thing or not. Is this commonplace? I saw something else pop up, and I think it was for a Venom book, where the cover specifically said, it was like a placeholder, it said, "We cannot show you this cover because it is a spoiler," but it was a pre-sale for some sort of variant. I don't remember where I saw this at, but I did see. I assume he's talking about the same book. Is this something that's fairly commonplace, or is this a niche thing?
It's. I feel like it's a niche thing, but I feel like we're seeing it. Like, Obi Din, maybe. Like, I don't know if this is spoilers, and I shouldn't say, but even the Void Rivals thing I was talking about, which is like the Transformers shared universe, they had a cover that was a spoiler variant. And
okay,
I'll just say, like, it's a character in the comic that obviously they put on the cover. And so maybe that's the one that Obi's talking about. And they also did like the Miles Morales, or not the Miles Morales, the Spider-Boy, if you caught wind of the whole Spider-Boy thing.
Yeah, I saw your videos on it. I didn't. Yeah. I don't. As we've discussed in previous conversations, I don't chase the modern, the ultra modern variant craze.
Hey, you never know. He's next in line for your Spider Gwen fandom. He's going to be the third seed.
I'll hold off on that one. I will chase the occasional Gwen variant. I definitely FOMO'd into some Gwen purchases coming off of Across the Spider-Verse for sure. But yeah. I was going to talk a little bit about Heroes Con. I don't know, we could flip the script here. Do you have any questions about Heroes Con for me? As I was just going to kind of talk about it, but we could turn things sideways on me here.
Well, no, I'm curious to hear what you thought of it. Heroes Con's supposed to be like the collector's show. Everyone says that, but I'm curious, I guess, hearing this. I DM'd you about how are the prices, because I felt like if this is supposed to be the show where you get all the best deals,
So I did spend a lot. I think my video will actually be out tomorrow. I've recorded it for a week, and then Tops and Fanatics and a bunch of other companies decided to do a bunch of crazy shit this week, and it kind of kept pushing that video back. But I think I spent close to like $3,000 on books, and I went in with a very specific hit list. Because I don't get to I get to maybe 1 or 2 Comic Cons a year, and one of them is New York City Comic Con. And to your point, I don't go to New York City Comic Con, or at least the one that I've gone to. And even this year upcoming, I don't go there to buy comics. I'm going there more for the experience. I don't know if San Diego is the same way. I know you've been there multiple times. But I'm not really walking in that door being like, I got to nail me some of these CGC slabs, while I'm here. Whereas Heroes Con, it is more, okay, I am here for a purpose of buying, certain books that I'd like to purchase in person. And kind of like on the sports card side of things, show pricing was kind of what I thought it was going to be. There was definitely some people that were living in 2021 and early 2022, and there were some people that were fairly priced. What I would say the majority of wall books and CGC stuff was like 10% over the 90-day, I would say, give or take, as a sticker price. and then people would be willing to work with you a little bit on stuff. Like if you were willing to pay cash recent eBay sold pricing, you could probably get it for close to that recent eBay sale number, but you weren't going to get like a 10%, 20% under that recent eBay number. Like they were playing firm around that, at least everyone that I bought from. That was kind of what I saw.
I think that's probably then as good as you could probably ask for, to be honest. Like if I was going to get at a con like a wall book and it was generally around some of the recent comps, and that's like sort of the I get to have it in my hand and walk away with it now price, like I don't feel so bad about that.
Yeah, and that was my perspective. I'm like, if this is something that I truly want, and I'll use the example that I use in the video tomorrow, and that I think I DM'd you about, which was it's sitting back there now.
Yeah,
the X-Men 101, very popular wall book. They sell often enough that you have a pretty good baseline of where the price should be on that. And I was pretty flexible. I was looking for anything from a 9.0 to a 9.4, depending on the price. And I looked at probably 6 different copies. A couple of them I just didn't like because that book is notoriously off-centered with a big white stripe down the left side. And some of them were pretty far off. Some of them I looked at like a 9.0 or a 9.2. There was a couple 9.2s. The most recent sales were anywhere between low 9s and high 9s, 900. And one that I looked at, I was like, hey, how much for this? And it was a nice looking copy. And he's like, 1,400. And I'm like, all right, you're more than I feel like I feel like dealers, and maybe they just do this because they don't even care. I don't know. But if you want to, I think there's pricing high and then there's pricing too high. So when I hear 1,400 on a book that should be 950 to 1,000, my immediate gut reaction is that we are so far apart on a starting point. I don't even want to engage on throwing out a first number.
Yeah, totally. Because a deal from them is going to be 1,200, which is still like too much. You know?
Yeah, exactly. Like even if they're like, I'll give you a steal at 1,100, I'm like, no, that's still like 200 more than what I want to spend. We're not even in the same book, let alone the same page.
Right.
So the one that I ended up buying, I think it was from Bedrock City Comics. They had it stickered for 1,000. The last eBay sale was 950, I think, or multiples around that range. I offered 850 cash, and they countered at 9. And we did the deal at 9.
Yeah.
So I thought that was extremely fair.
Yeah, that's great. And then it's you know you don't have to pay the tax on that and the little extra shipping costs, and stuff. So
and shipping on comic books is not cheap. It's not like a card where you buy a card on eBay and shipping is $3. A card shipping on a comic is 15 to 25 depending on how they're shipping it.
It definitely adds up. So yeah, that's like getting that type of deal at a con, I feel like is great. Even if it's not like the absolute bottom barrel 4 a.m. eBay, auction, right? Like it's still a great deal.
Yeah. Could I have waited that out and got it cheaper on a Heritage or a Comic Link or some random eBay ending time? Sure. And I'd been looking at them forever, but the whole point of going there was walking out of there with that book. And I knew I could probably find one. It's not super rare, especially I didn't have a specific grade that I wanted to live in.
Right.
But that was generally speaking kind of where people sat. Like that book had been selling for 900. They had it stickered for 1,000. Now they were a little bit more reasonably priced out of the gate than a lot. I'll give another example. I got a X-Men 12. You probably can't see it back there because it's so dark.
It's the Juggernaut one. Yeah. I saw your picture. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. So I got that in a 5.0. I picked that up while I was there, and I actually got that from your boys over at Shortbox.
Oh, cool. Okay.
I forget the guy's name. He gave me his card. He has a beard. I think he's in charge of maybe.
Oh, it'd be either Kevin or Ryan. One of those guys.
I don't remember. We talked a couple different times, but they had that. And X-Men 12 was one in the back of my head. I'm like, if I get good deals and kind of knock out a lot of other stuff, I wouldn't mind getting an X-Men 12 because I think it's of the major early X-Men keys. It's extremely reasonably priced now.
Yeah.
So that I got for $600. Shortbox had it stickered for $7. The recent eBay sales or the recent GPA numbers on that were $600 to $650.
You know what's funny about that book is we've talked about this a little bit back and forth, or I guess in the sports card world, these are the videos that definitely you're not allowed to do. But I've started to think about maybe doing some of those 05 books to maybe buy now again type of content. but I'm still a little bit. I want to be sure about my picks, especially in this market. But X-Men 12 is one that I've sort of like written down as like okay, like this could be in that bucket.
Yeah. And it's not, it's a pretty decent, when you get in 5.0, it gets a little tricky. But I mean, to me, the whole point was, does the red pop?
Yeah.
And on this,
Yeah, it looks great.
The red pops. There's some stuff, like that top corner's got a pretty decent ding on it, and the spine, it's definitely got some stress like around the staples and stuff. But generally speaking, sitting on the shelf for a 5.0, like there's a ton of glare there, but you get the point. Like the red is what matters on this more than anything else, in my opinion. You want that red to pop, regardless.
The reds can definitely fade a lot on comics that are red.
Yeah, especially one from, what is this, 1965?
Yeah.
So they had that one, and they were, once again, they were at 700 sticker, and I got it for $6, and eBay sales were around $650. Now in a 5.0, you have a little bit more, how does it present? Like, I think when you get to 5 and under, you start getting a little bit more variance on pricing.
Yeah.
Like that book in a 5.0 with shitty red is going to sell for a lot less than a 5.0 that really pops.
Yes.
Could cause easily like a $75 to $100 swing on a price, depending on how good or bad it looks.
Yeah. Especially
in that realm.
In that, like, you're seeing it a lot too, where it'd be like, maybe your 5.0 would sell for more than a 6.0, but a 6.0 would look worse because it's faded. And so there's a lot of that right now in that like mid-ish, lower mid-ish grade, like the 4s to the 5s to the 6s with a lot of comics. So it really depends.
But that was another one. That's not a hard book to find, especially in a lower grade. Like if you go to a big show like that, you're going to find plenty of them. And there was someone that was also had a 5.0 that was at the same price. They were at 700. I thought they presented about the same, but that one had the date stamp on the front of it. You know how they would date stamp them back? I think it was when if they didn't sell, they would ship them back and they would date stamp them or something.
I actually don't know the lore to that, and I should know it. I thought it was just stores doing it, but maybe
that's what it was.
Maybe it was.
I can't remember, but regardless, it had the date stamp on it, and I hate when books have the date stamp on it.
Yeah.
Or like a kid wrote his name on it or whatever. Like any of that sort of stuff on the cover is immediately like you go to the bottom of the list.
Oh, that's interesting. Kid writing his name on the cover definitely bothers me. The date stamps, I actually like them, except, I mean, if it's like right in the middle, or it's like a really catch your eye, it does bother me. But if it's
I think this one went over the X-Men in the X-Men title.
Okay. Yeah. It
so
depends.
It popped out a little bit more. I didn't notice it until I had it in my hand because it was faded, but it was definitely there. But they were reasonably priced on that one. And then someone else, the big debate that I had, and I guess I'll ask you what you would have, obviously it was almost twice the price more. Someone had a 7.0 at 1,400. Now I was going to offer 12 because they usually go for around 1,200 in that grade. But 7.0 it was at that census number that I like to be at, where 7.0 is the top number in the census, and then anything higher than that is where it starts to get extremely more rare.
Right.
And anything lower than that is where there's a ton of them. I really debated the whole last day I was there on Saturday which one to make the play for, and then just saving $600 by getting 2 grades less. I was like, I would just rather, and I don't even know if the guy would have accepted 1,200 on the other one. He was at 14. I feel like I probably could have got it for 12.
Yeah.
But I was just like twice as much for a 2-number bump. But on a 60s book, that's a big, going from a 5 to a 7 is not a small leap. But I ended up just going with that one. I was like, I think I would rather just have the 5.0 to get one and then have the extra $600 to pick up something else.
Yeah. I think what you did was the right move. I mean, there is that grade psychology. I think when you get into like the 7.0 of a Silver Age book club, it's like, it is like you were saying, the census, you're above that census curve thing.
Yeah.
Which is kind of nice, but I don't know. I mean, it's like, do you ever have the feeling it's like, well, sometimes when you like get something in hand, like now, like the mysticism around it, like is gone, or you don't need, you feel fulfilled. Like or it's like sometimes I get the book and it's like, even if it's not the grade I thought I wanted, but now that I have it, I feel like happy about that. And then sometimes I'm like, oh man, I do want a higher grade. And I feel like that'll just seep into your feeling now, I guess, with the book.
Yeah.
It'll be like,
the other side of it too was just kind of what you talked about, is like there is definitely still some market uncertainty. As much as books have corrected, it still feels a little dodgy out in the streets, I guess.
yeah.
And by getting a 5.0 for 600, I just feel like the floor is going to come up to meet me a lot. Like the drop to what the potential floor on that is a lot smaller than getting
100%.
into a 7.0 at 1,200. You know, a 7.0 at 1,200 could maybe go to $800.
Yeah.
If stuff got bad.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
I feel like a 5.0, you know, maybe it drops to 400. I don't know. You know, who knows? There's no magical ball on pricing, but I just felt like my downside on the 5.0 was less risk because
I
of
think
the price point that I was getting it at.
I think that it is certainly true that in most instances, say when you get to like 5, 4, 3 grades, those prices it's like have corrected. And so, yeah, like you're saying, maybe they're going to correct a little bit more, but yeah, that maybe the risk right now is in the 7.0 range, because it's like those prices have corrected, but maybe they have a lot more to correct still, because they've held a certain floor level in comparison to like the lower grade stuff.
Yeah, like I just pulled up GPA. So in June of 2018, 5.0s were doing $450 to $500. So that was of that book. So that was, you know, 2 years before the peak, during like right before things went nutty. Late 2020, it was going for $550. So I paid $50 more for it than what it was going for in 2020. And that's when that was right before things went crazy, because it's literally, the GPA graph is funny. It goes from 550 in December of 2020 to March of 2021. It's 1,500.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think what you paid is probably exactly, you know, when we talk to the index stuff, that's like exactly where we're at, where you want to be. Now, like we say, who knows? Come December, is it going to be even lower? I mean, who knows? We're gonna find out.
Yeah, for sure. I was gonna pull up this GPA because the graph is hilarious on this. Where the hell did it go? Oh, here we go. Yeah, like look at the GPA graph.
When your cliff is like literally, you know, 90-degree angle right there.
Yeah, like,
you know,
I mean, there was a 3-month gap there. This goes from December to March, but still, like the fact that it 3x'd and I basically got it at 2020 pricing. I'm just curious, what did a 7.0 go for back then? So a 7.0 in December 2020 went for 1,000.
Right.
And then that went up. What did that 3x'd as well? Not quite. It got up to like 2,400. You can see that one has not fallen quite as much as the 5.0 has, to your point. Like it's been a little bit more.
So I think if you got it for 1,200, then like, yeah, I think that could have been like for what we know at this current moment in time, 1,200 would be like the right price to pay for it. But like you said, I mean, your $600 5.0 might go to 400, but the 7.0 could go even. The amount of money that you're going to lose out could correct harder on the 7.0 range.
Yeah. And then, like I said, it freed me up to basically buy something else if I wanted to. Like it was like I could save 2 grade points and also, you know, potentially get a whole other book. Like, totally. It's kind of wild, having been there last year to this year, how much prices have really swung in just a year. Like I was walking around looking at stuff and I'm like, that is so much cheaper than it was just a year ago.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of wild how much stuff has really swung.
I always make fun or talk like the silver lining to this all is like, you know, our price memory is now to the point where everything looks like a deal, you know? So it's actually a lot of, you know, I always get people in my YouTube on the comments, especially if they're older collectors. They're like, I can't understand why anyone would pay $1,000 for such and such book, because they remember when it was only $50 or something. Right.
Yeah.
Where it's like, we're all coming off of the prices, what they were. And now it's like, I'll happily pay $1,000 for that. It used to be 3,000, you know?
Yeah, like I got a really solid deal on I love when I find my favorite thing to do, and I do this in cards too, is if I find something at a table that I really, really want, and this particular guy, and I forget the dealer off the top of my head, I mentioned it in the video when I do the recap next week. He was very reasonably priced on stuff. Like his sticker prices were basically like right at current GPA, like not even the 90-day, like the most recent sales from like the last couple weeks, which as you know, you don't really see that often where they're that current. Like he had Lethal Protector #1 Venom for like just over $100 in a 9.8. Like that's exactly what that book sells for. So to see it stickered at that price right off the get, and then he's like, "Hey," he was telling me and the other guy that were like digging through, he had like long boxes of CGC slabs. He's like, "I'm 100% willing to like work with you on stuff if you get multiples." And I love the pull out multiples and leverage that as like a negotiation tactic.
Yeah.
So they had an X-Men Annual 14, the first cameo / first appearance of Gambit, depending on what camp you want to sit in with that one. And I never had that book, and I never really had a ton of desire for it. But his sticker price was like $250, which is a little bit above what that book sells for, but it was reasonable enough. And then he had the Lethal Protector 1, which is a book that I've never had any real desire to own, but I mean, everyone loves that cover. Like,
yeah, it's a classic.
That era. Yeah. And then he had a I don't have it sitting next to me, I put it away already. He had do you remember the Wizard X-Men 30th anniversary edition?
I think so. Was that got all the ladies on it?
No, not the ladies. It's got like a full team on it. It was like the 30th anniversary special. I think you're just thinking of the regular Wizard issue, not the anniversary special. So they had that in a 9.4, but it was the San Diego Comic-Con edition, which are significantly more rare. And he only had it for like 60 or 70 bucks, which I thought was a pretty decent price off the get, given the popularity of Wizards recently. So like I bundled all three of those together, and I'm pretty sure the deal in total, I ended up getting them all for less than like 10% under what they're currently going for, because I put together a bundle deal, or I basically got the Wizard for free almost by packaging the three together.
Yeah.
And it wasn't, like I said, the Lethal Protector 1 wasn't necessarily a book that I was like, oh, I need to own one of these, but I'm happy to throw one in the collection for like under $100. Like,
yeah,
all day long.
I'm looking forward to, I'm going to go to San Diego Comic-Con, and then I'm going to go to Terrificon after that. And to get at what you're talking about is I'm hoping that that's going to be my experience too, where like the dealers are really wanting to do the bundle thing, because that's kind of how it used to be for a while. And then it like that totally went away. But it'll be cool if we're back in a place where it's like, going to the comic show or even going to like the card show, that is going to be the best place for you to kind of get a bunch of good stuff, as opposed to whatever, buying stuff off of auction on eBay still, or whatever, your local card shop or something.
And I did the same thing too. I wanted to fill out the Dark Phoenix run, and I'm still missing a couple, but I went to, I think it was Dale Roberts Comics, who I had bought stuff from before. He always has a very good selection of CGC.
He's got crazy stuff.
Yeah, he has probably the most insane wall at whatever show he set up at. And he also brings a ton of CGC slabs. And I knew like if anyone was going to have a bunch of these issues, it would be him. And his wall books tend to be high, but his long box CGC stuff tends to be reasonable enough. And sure enough, like I found at least 3 different issues from that run in 9.6s, which is what I was looking for. And he was probably like 10% over like where I wanted to be, but I pulled 3 of them out, and I was like, hey, could we get to here? And he didn't want to get that low, so we kind of met in the middle, which is kind of where I was kind of expecting it to end up at.
That's good.
My general offer is usually 20% below sticker, and kind of expecting to end up at around 10 to 15% below sticker. Because I'm not even going to offer on it if your sticker, like we talked about earlier, if the sticker is so far out of whack, I'm not even offering on it. So
it's just going to be pulling teeth at that point.
Yeah, it's just going to end in some awkward conversations.
Yeah.
But I would probably say 60 to 70% of the dealers that I interacted with seem to be relatively in line. With some wall books having that extra premium put on it. Like even like Dale Roberts as an example, I thought his wall books were pretty high. I thought his stuff, his CGC bulk CGC slabs in the long boxes were reasonable-ish.
That makes sense. Yeah. And I think maybe you know, I always wonder with somebody like him, like when he got those books, is he underwater with some of them, and that's why he's just like, I'm just gonna keep the sticker on it, and if I don't have to sell it, I don't have to sell it, and really, it's just a billboard to like come check out his booth, you know?
Yeah, like he had really nice copies of X-Men 101 on his wall, but I thought they were
Mhm.
high. Like he had like a 9.4
Right.
for like 14 or 1500, and I'm like, eh.
Yeah, yeah.
That's who I got my Avengers 4 off of last year, was him. He was pretty reasonable on that off the wall, but
Mm.
that's a book that's come down a lot. I think you have one of those, don't you?
Oh yeah, yeah. Well,
Yeah, I got crushed on
no,
that.
I've made jokes like that of all the books I'm left holding the bag on, that one is my number one as far as loss, for sure.
Um, that's not probably my number one is probably Giant Size X-Men number one, crazily enough.
Mm.
Like I've lost more on that than anything else. And I bought that on the downswing, but just not enough on the
Yeah,
downswing. Same with
that's what
X-Men 4, because I think we got ours around the same time. It was like, oh,
because it
this
did
book's
this.
come way down. This is a great time to get in. And
Yeah,
then,
it
oh
pulled
wait,
back and then it went back up and then it pulled back majorly
yeah.
again. So we,
Oops, I should have
yeah,
waited another year, I guess.
yeah, exactly.
But I didn't buy that book to flip, so I don't really I don't care that much. I mean, you don't want to see your stuff go down, but it's not like when I bought that book, I wasn't planning on, quick flipping, making the tendies on it and moving
Exactly.
on. That was not the plan. So Avengers 8's another one that I'm way under on.
Yeah, under on that one, but it's looking good for Jonathan Majors
Yeah,
now,
I saw that.
So
I
who
saw that
knows?
news.
Kang is
I,
back.
yeah, let me just get caught up on chat really quick here. Are there groups that offer services for getting stuff signed? I don't know if there are, but like Peach specifically, I believe you could just send in directly to CGC. I think CGC has an active signing with Peach that you could just submit directly to them, and then they'll have them sign it. It won't be at San Diego Comic Con, but they do a lot of artists that way. I love Peach stuff. She's one of my favorite of the modern artists. I was giving CGC hell because they bring all these cool people in, but you can't send cards.
Oh yeah,
Like Peach, I can't submit cards. It's
so
only
weird
comics.
because it seems like that's the side of their business they're trying to continue
Yeah.
to grow.
I was talking to them the other day, and I'm like, I literally would like to give you my money, and you guys don't want it.
Yeah.
Like, because they have a bunch of cool actors in right now. Like Haley Steinfeld's up for a signing right now. Elizabeth Olsen, Peach is up for a signing, and I'm like looking through the list, and I'm like, I would literally send at easily 10 cards in right now across 3 different signers. I'm like, that's $1,500. I'm like, do you guys not actually more than that? Because some of the actors are expensive. I'm like,
what did they say? Like, or was there a reason that they said they couldn't
not
do
a
it?
specific one. I think it's something that they're working on expanding things out. Like they've only done one so far, the card signing, which was the McFarlane signing that they did.
Yeah.
And now they're doing a Liefeld signing right now that you could send in for cards. But that's been it. I think it's back end stuff, like software stuff, as dumb as it sounds.
Right.
Because it's 2 separate companies, kind of, if that makes sense, even though it's really not. Like, I think their back end systems don't match up with like how the public views them. And I think that causes them some issues, if I had to guess. I don't know for sure.
Right.
But because to your point, why would you not? Like,
yeah,
I feel like a ton of people would send cards in to get actor autos on if it was open.
There's probably just something to do with the pipeline, I guess is whatever it is.
But like, yeah, I'm like, I would literally love to send you guys like a couple $1,000. Like, please, here's my credit card.
Yeah, take my money, please.
Yeah, like literally take my money. And they're like,
nah. You ever see that? What was it? The 40-year-old virgin. You remember when Jonah Hill? He's like in the eBay store. He's like, I'd like to buy these roller skates. Like, no, you can't. You can't buy them. It's like, I'm just gonna leave my money here on the table. Like, you gotta go online.
Yeah, I did see Spidey Hits mention that, but I think it does go a little bit beyond that because there have been people that have said that they would sign cards, but CGC is like, nah. I think they made Carve Out exclusively for the Liefeld and the McFarlane one. Did you see? I don't know how much you follow this on the card side of things. Did you see the CGC grading card shakeup thing this week?
Well, I caught wind from you where they're joining somebody, right?
So they have their sports card division, which is the CSG side of things. And essentially they're getting rid of the CSG side and just kind of migrating all that stuff over to CGC. But as part of that, they are redesigning the label and they're using CSG used a different grading scale than CGC did. Is crazy as that sounds, the two companies that were both in their own house did not use the same grading scale.
Interesting.
Yeah. CGC used a Beckett scale where a gem mint was a 9.5, and CSG used
Got
the
it.
more commonplace gem mint is a 10.
Yeah.
And CGC offered subgrades, CSG did not. So like you get like your corners got a 9.5 essentially and that stuff.
So is this Pitchfork Town or is this like Celebration Town?
The Marvel people are mad because they went away from the CGC blue label. It is not going to be a CGC blue label anymore on their trading card grading.
Got it.
So all their labels are blue labels except for trading cards. Now it is going to be a essentially kind of like very similar to their sports label. I don't know if I have one. It'll look. It's not exactly like this. It's slightly different, but it'll look very similar to that, as opposed to the CGC blue label.
Interesting.
So a lot of the Marvel collectors are not happy because they want their matching labels to their CGC comic book slabs for display purposes. And like I was talking earlier, I was working on a set, the old Jim Lee 92 X-Men set in all CGC slabs. So I'm only about 10 to 20% into it. So now what do I do? Like, do I rush an order off of like 80 cards to get the rest of the set slabbed in the old label? Because they're still grading in the old label up until early July. Or do I transition over to the new label and not have the CGC blue label anymore? It's like,
well, what do you think of the non-blue label? Do you like the aesthetic?
It's fine, but at that point, like to me, a big appeal to grading with CGC and Marvel was the label match. Like this is very in the niche weeds of Marvel specific. I don't know how the Pokemon people feel and the Magic the Gathering people feel because they also were in the blue label, and I just don't grade that side enough to know like if they're up in arms or not.
This seems like a situation where it's just sort of like why are we creating two different labels when we can be more efficient and create one? And I think like the Marvel card, part of it is probably not a substantial enough a part of their business where they just don't care.
They do a decent amount of Marvel cards, I think, because of that fact. So now it's kind of like, why would I grade Marvel cards with you? I just send them to PSA. Like the one thing that was kind of like the appealing aspect of sending them to you is now gone. But to your point, it's kind of like, I don't know, do sports cards look that great in a CGC blue label? I don't know. And like I said, I don't know how the Pokemon people felt about the blue label, if it was just kind of like it's fine, or if it was like, oh no, this looks fantastic. But it is weird. They have like, if you look at their Instagram, they have a picture and it's like a comic book, and they grade like video games and VHS and whatever else now, and it's all the same CGC blue label like that's on the comics, and then the cards are down there with their own little weird new label. And it's like,
that is actually really stupid that they like, even from a company branding standpoint, like why would they do that? But Monotone says that the Pokemon
gets it because I was part of, they did do focus grouping and surveys, and I was part of that process. And I kind of like, I get it. Like Marvel cards look great with the CGC blue label, but a lot of cards don't. Like, just to be 100% honest, from like a macro level, a lot of cards just do not look good in that CGC blue label, especially sports cards. They just don't.
Right.
Pokemon, like I said, I don't really know. Magic, I know Magic pretty well, but I don't ever grade it. I just know like the game and like the current vibes of it. I don't know that a lot of Magic cards would look great in a CGC blue label. I don't know. I guess it's kind of whatever.
Seen them. They're fine.
Yeah.
I personally prefer the PSA look, but
yeah. So like, I kind of get from their perspective of like, we want to grade all cards, so we need to look beyond the Marvel niche. Does the vast majority of cards look good in this CGC blue label? The answer to that is probably no. You know what I mean? And that's, I even said that. I said it so much in the feedback groups that I was in. So I kind of get it. Like part of me gets it. And I tried to take off the Marvel niche hat when I gave my feedback to them, because I knew that they're looking at this from a broad base. But it would be nice if they still graded Marvel stuff, like carve out and say Marvel still gets the blue label. But I get why that's probably a disaster on the back end of things.
Yeah.
It's a split, like from a marketing and brand synergy and throw out whatever other business terms you want to.
It's probably one of those things. I saw Monotone wrote in the chat too that he said the Pokemon crowd hated the blue label. So like maybe just from a long-term business standpoint, this is probably just the right thing to do. And in the short term, just, for those niche collectors who liked the card and comic match, it's just, one of the growing pains here.
Yeah. I think to Wax House comment here, I think they probably ran the numbers and said, okay, we're going to piss off the Marvel people, but they are X percentage of our customer base. So we're going to take the hit in the short term for the potential long-term aspects of what the new label does for us.
Yeah.
That being said, I'm interviewing them on Monday. I'm still going to give them hell about it.
Oh, interesting. Oh, yeah. You got to definitely give them hell. You got to be the voice here, that talks about it.
Yeah. I was looking to see, I think it says, yeah, here, let me share my screen again really quickly. Because they're pretty upfront about where. So Pokemon's 2.5 million graded on their pop report. Magic is 116,000 and Marvel is 35,000. Now, to be fair, they've only graded Marvel for like 7 months. Whereas the rest of these they've graded for a while. So 35,000 since I think they started grading Marvel in December.
Yeah.
Or around Thanksgiving. Like that's actually probably a pretty good number when you compare it to Magic.
Yeah.
Like Magic's at 115,000 and they've been grading Magic for multiple years. And Marvel's already a third of that number, almost a third of that number. That seems pretty good given the short time. But then you go over here and you see this monster. Like this is what it's all about.
But even in the short time, I mean, like this could be one of those like, hey guys, the Marvel thing is growing. We need to make a decision ASAP because it's going to be more a problem. Let's say Marvel ends up becoming 1 million pop count. Then it's like, and then they want to switch. And then it's like, now they're really in trouble,
Yeah. So we'll see what happens. And a lot of this was about this all goes back to mistakes that they made when they initially launched CSG. Like when they launched the sports card grading side of things. In hindsight, it should have never been its own company. It should have just been part of CGC right from the get. So part of this is them correcting that error from 2 years ago when they decided to start grading sports cards and they branched it into their own thing instead of just putting it under CGC cards at the time.
Right.
So part of it's them, they've kind of made this bet and now they have to lay in it. So you reap what you sow, I guess, in that perspective.
100%. There's always CGC, man. It's always going to be something. It's always going to be something with that company.
So are people I know they recently, what was that? Like a couple months ago or a month ago, you were doing your Down with CGC video because they raised prices. In typical fashion, does anyone care anymore that those prices change?
Of course not. No, I haven't heard one single person talk about it since then. So
that would be you should do a follow-up video on that. Be like, guys, remember a month ago whenever all you guys said we're never using CGC again, and everyone still just kept using CGC.
Yeah. It'll ironically, it'll be like my lowest viewed video ever because that'll go to show how little people care about it now again.
Yeah. Chat's asking about the Emmy that's sitting behind you. Do you want to briefly discuss?
Yeah, sure. It's an Emmy that's behind me.
That is a legit Emmy. It's not like a fake one.
Yeah, it's a legit one. It's not the sexiest Emmy ever to be won by somebody. I didn't walk on stage for it, but it's for a commercial campaign that I did. So yeah, it's a real Emmy.
Yeah, for those that don't know, what I'll let you give as much information as you want to on what your actual day job is.
Oh yeah, no, I live in LA and I work in film, and so I do a lot of writing and directing and stuff. So I did direct a campaign that won me an Emmy. So it sat there for a while, and then I have a YouTube, so it just kind of sits there. And now it's become like a thing.
You've done a lot with Magic the Gathering and stuff for like trailers and stuff, haven't you?
Yeah, I did. I wrote a lot of their cinematics that'll come out, and D&D, like a lot of the Wizards properties and stuff. So
yeah, as a big D&D player, I've probably watched many of your trailer without even having realized at the time that I was watching them that you were had probably some sort of hand in that.
Yeah, I think so. It's been funny. Like a lot of people have been like, oh yeah, blah blah. Blah. Oh, I'll talk to him about D&D and stuff, and I'll be like, oh yeah, I made that trailer, and they'll be like, oh cool,
One of the highlights from New York, the one panel that I went to from New York City Comic Con last year was the Critical Role panel.
Oh
Because
cool, yeah,
I'm big fans of Critical Role, and
yeah.
went to their panel for their Amazon cartoon. That's what the panel was focused around, because that had just launched.
It's
So
the Vox
Vox
Machina thing.
Machina.
Yeah, Machina.
Yeah. They're back this year, and they're doing autograph signings and stuff. So I'm debating if I maybe want to do some sort of autograph signing. My wife is extremely excited because both Ian McGregor and Chris Evans are doing photo ops and signings at New York City Comic Con.
Oh, nice.
So,
yeah.
We'll see if I still have a wife after New York City Comic Con's over.
It's the exception list. The exception list. You know?
Yeah, for sure. I get it. Katie Sackhoff's going to be there, so you know, I might sign up for one of those. We'll see. I've never been real big on like the whole wait in line for hours on end to meet an actor for 30 seconds and get something autographed.
Yeah.
I don't know. Where do you come out on that? You're in the entertainment industry, so you might even have a little bit of a different skew on it. Well, you probably sometimes interact with these people in a different way, but
yeah, I could see it being cool, but for sure, I think a more like fun interaction would be like, oh, that one time you walked into an elevator and like that person was there and you guys chatted for 10 seconds. Like, I think that might be a more fun story than the wait in line thing. But like, if you want to get something signed, that's the best way to do it.
Yeah, funnily enough, at the National last year in Atlantic City, the National Sports Card Convention, which is the sports card version of San Diego Comic-Con, my wife and I hopped in an elevator at like 3 a.m, and Emmett Smith was in the elevator.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
When we got on, and he was on his way back up to the room after signing all day and been in the casino all night. And we had a good little, we were both up like on the 6th, I think we rode like 5 or 6 floors together and just had a good little, like, we didn't ask for a photo op or an autograph or anything. Just like, hey, how did your day go? Like, oh yeah, it's crazy, like exhausting. Just had a good little like 30-second to 60-second conversation with him. And like, to your point, remember that more than, any paid signing that I've ever, and I really haven't done a lot of them, but like, that's more of a memory than anything else.
Yeah.
Like, we ran into Lawrence Taylor on the casino floor when we were walking around as well. So, but that was a more interaction or a more memorable experience. 60 seconds on the elevator with Emmett Smith than probably doing waiting in line for however long to get your 10 or 30 seconds. I know Dustin, Sports Card Dad, he recently did a paid photo shoot with him and his daughter with Millie Bobby Brown at a horror convention. And he said that was cool, more so from the perspective of like how excited his daughter was about it.
Yeah.
Like I get that. I don't have kids, but like I could kind of get that. Like, you're almost paying for that memory essentially of like how their face is lighting up and reacting to that moment. So I get that. That being said, I might sign up and wait in line for a Matt Mercer autograph. I think that would be kind of cool.
I mean, it's cool. It's cool to do it if it's something that you like actually like or care about, or if it's somebody that you're a big fan of. Like, I definitely think there's definitely people that I could think of that
it would be like your one, like who's the one person that, like, realistically, like not someone super crazy, but like in the, whether it's the Marvel, even in the nerd space / actor space, like, is there one person that you're like,
well,
if they're going to be there, I got to sign up for it and do it?
I'll tell you this. It's like, I don't have any of this type of memorabilia, but I'll tell you my one, I'd hardly call it like a run-in. Like, I literally walked into a Walgreens as like this person was walking out, but I walked past Stone Cold Steve Austin. And that for sure, like, was like me just being like apoplectic, just being like, that was Stone Cold Steve Austin. Like, I legitimately got the feeling of shock. So if I had like I don't know, an Austin 316 shirt or something like that, for sure, I think like Stone Cold would be up there for me. He's one of the first people that comes to mind.
He has a really nice, it came out in this most recent WWE set, not most recent, it came out like this last year. It's a really nice autograph card of him, and he's crashing, like it's him basically running into the camera and hitting the 2 beers together. That's awesome. The beers essentially exploding out towards the camera lens. And it's just a great image.
Yeah.
I kind of want that one. I'll see if I can pull it up.
Wrestling cards are definitely something I could get super into.
So I recently picked this one up not too terribly long ago.
Oh yeah, that's pretty cool.
And the HBK signs a ton. You could find his autograph all the time. For me, it was specifically the image that they use, and it's called signature moves. And just like having an on-card auto of HBK landing a sweet chin music on the British Bulldog is like a large portion of my childhood.
That's cool.
Like on one card.
Like I think of or like maybe, maybe I'll do like if I could find like a Stone Cold Steve Austin comic cover. I'm sure they exist. I haven't thought that
is he
hard
on anything comic wise?
I don't know if thing? Well, like, every now and again you might see like a cool Macho Man comic cover or something like that. So I think those types of things I could get into.
Oh, here's another one that I just got, which this one, the one actually just recently passed away. Little Bushwhackers.
Oh yeah, yeah. Bushwhackers, that's cool.
I think Butch recently passed. And I know there was a big deal. It was funny because I just saw that I was at the same show that Ryan Card Collector 2 bought it at. There was a Hulk Hogan Iron Sheik dual auto 101, and he bought it, and like literally 5 days later Sheik passed away. And that card went way up.
Yeah.
Because of him passing. I missed Stone Cold auto really quick. A great image. As soon as I saw it, I'm like, I'm gonna need one of those. He has another one where he's landing a sweet or a stunner on someone as well. It's not the greatest picture that they pulled off there, but like
that's cool.
If you want a Stone Cold auto, like that's that's Stone Cold. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. And that's of 49, I think I see.
Yeah.
That's pretty.
This goes for I think about $600 or $700, give or take.
Oh wow, that's expensive. I mean, I didn't know what to expect.
I think it's specifically that image. Once again, like his auto is not hard to find. I think his on-card autos are a little more rare than his sticker autos. But yeah, that goes for about $600. There is one of him nailing the stunner on the Undertaker, but I actually don't think it looks as good.
You know what's funny? It's like the action photo.
Yeah, this is that one. I don't know. That's fine, but like I don't know. I don't think that looks as good as the HBK version.
No, I think the HBK one looks better. But it's funny because I feel like I would want kind of like how Marvel cards. It's like I feel like that's the equivalent of having the the versus image versus the portrait of the character.
Yeah, I agree. There's another good Shawn Michaels one that I've actually had my eyes on. Someone snagged one the other day. This one. I really like this image too. I almost bought this. It was only $150.
Yeah, that's definitely a classic flex pose right there.
Yeah. That was the other one that I was looking at. What is going on in this chat? Sheriff Roll riding a four-wheeler. Yeah, Attitude Era WWE or WWF at the time was
another.
I don't know. There's not more things that hit me in the feels than Attitude Era. So I was big in the wrestling in the 80s, obviously, like the peak Hulkamania, Shawn Michaels with Marty Jannetty, like that era. And then I kind of fell off of it as kind of like most things, you kind of come in and out of it. And then I was a senior in high school, junior in high school during the Attitude Era. I graduated in 99. And like the guys that I worked with, I worked at a local grocery store chain as a sophomore, junior in high school. And we would all run and grab the WWF magazine every month when it came in. And the one guy would always be the guy that ordered all the pay-per-views. We would go to his house every month for the pay-per-view. He would order it. We would watch it. And then my friends from high school, we would always go to whenever Raw would come to town or a pay-per-view. Like I was at the most classic match I think I ever saw in person. I was at the pay-per-view where the Hardy Boys did the first, not the first, but they did that iconic ladder match. I forget who they fought. It might have been Edge and Christian.
The Edge and Christian, yeah.
I think it was Edge and Christian.
It's match.
It's rated as like the number one table ladders and chair match in existence ever. And that was it was either in Cleveland or Columbus. I think it was No Way Out. It might have been in Columbus. I don't remember. But I remember being at the event. I don't remember what city I was in, but I saw that match in person. I think that was the most famous match I saw in person. And I saw the the Undertaker Mankind match where Undertaker choke slammed him off the top of the steel
Yeah.
cage to the table is another. That's like another all time iconic. That was in Pittsburgh, I think.
Yeah. I still remember
was.
that is like straight up a core memory to me. Like I remember where I was watching the pay-per-view when that happened, you know?
Yeah, there was nothing better than there is nothing, and I haven't gone to one in years, but like being in a sold out arena and like D-Generation X comes out, or like Road Dogg and Badass Billy Gunn come out to do a match, and like 20,000 people are like yelling
so
out
good. So good.
their like little catchphrase, you know what I mean? All in unison. That there's just like, that's just a certain energy that hits you in a way that nothing else does.
Totally.
You know, the whole like tag team champions of the world, like that whole, I don't know what that is, like a 2-minute shtick, and like everybody knows it to like exactly what inflection and when he's gonna say what, and like I don't know. There's just a certain vibe that gives you.
It was good times, man. It's sad. It's like you're just chasing the dragon. You know, one of these days, I always think to myself, I'm like, man, like, oh, like what's going on in the wrestling world? Not that I could ever really see myself watching it week to week, but I'm always curious. And then I turn it on for a little bit and I'm like, eh.
Oh, that's a rough one. The St. Louis Raw the night after Owen Hart died.
Oof. Oh man.
It's crazy how the emotions that you get, like when you used to watch that and you'd be watching it and someone's entrance music hit.
Yeah.
The rush that it would
so
give you.
Good.
Like if it was out of like the old Jim Ross, oh my God, like, you know, just, I don't know, like
just
you're in the building or even just watching on TV and all of a sudden you would hear that glass shatter out of nowhere and you would just lose your mind.
Oh, so good. So good. You know, I always, you know how there's the, what do you call it? The kayfabe, right? Where it's like within context of the story. I always wondered, how did they explain that? So like, let's say, so if wrestling's real, like does Stone Cold like tell the like as he's running to save whoever he's going to save, like, does he tell some guy like, hey, play my music, I'm about to run out, you know, or as he's going through, what is the in-story kayfabe, you know, going on right here? How does he play his music? But
it's just the guy sitting like 50 yards before they run through like a tunnel that they have to run up. And they're like, oh shit, here comes Stone Cold.
Yeah, he's just sitting there. He's like, oh, I got to hit this. Or like,
and you got to time it perfectly for when he's about to run out.
Yeah. Yeah. Or it's like the, you know, he stuns Vince McMahon and then they got to like play him off, you know, the ring. Like, does the guy hit play? He's like, oh, Stone Cold standing tall. I better play his music now.
Yeah. It was funny because I was in high school. I was on a lot of the media stuff. So like I was on like the yearbook stuff and like the school newspaper because I was a photographer. And I was in on the morning announcements team that did like the video, you know, the high school, you know, this is the news of the day thing in the morning. I wasn't on camera, but I was in charge of selecting the music for the day. So on Tuesdays after Monday Night Raw, I would always put like a WWF entrance theme on there. So like the morning announcements would start and then it would like hit with like the glass smashing or whatever. Like everyone in class would be like freaking out. Like, they'd be like, what do you have on today? And it would, you know, it'd be like D-Generation X, but I have to like cut it before they said suck it or something. I couldn't get like too crazy.
That era, like I feel like any administrator or teacher working in schools during that D-Generation X era must have had to deal with. I just think about like all the kids doing "Suck It," you know?
Oh yeah, I mean, I remember it was a big deal when they banned us from wearing the shirts in school.
Yeah.
Like for a while, you could get away with the DX 2-word "Suck It" T-shirt, and everyone was wearing them. And then it like came down the pike. It's like, hey, we can't do that anymore, guys.
Yeah. So funny.
Because some of the shirts back then were kind of wild. Like some of the stuff that got thrown on some Attitude Era T-shirts would not fly today in today's marketing departments.
Totally.
It wasn't really that. I mean, in reality, it was a long time ago, but in really it doesn't feel like it was that long ago. Like how much stuff has changed around that side of things. Of like that would never fly in today's world.
Well, I'm curious actually because didn't they get acquired, right? Like WWE got acquired by some Saudi billionaire or something. Isn't that the story?
Well, they're part of like the UFC now. Like they're all one big.
Oh, so I'm wondering if, because they kind of went to like the PG era, right?
Yeah.
Because I think they went public, their company went public. So obviously it's like, you know, we're a public company. We can't be doing controversial stuff. And it obviously hurt the product, but I'm wondering if this means they can push the boundaries a little more.
Yeah, I feel like they kind of need to kind of really get back to like I feel like they've been chasing the dragon of the Attitude Era for a long time.
Yeah, they really have. Remember, I feel like they need to have a catalog. I think that's probably what I don't know, maybe it's hard to do it, but I think back in the Hulk Hogan days, they had like a nighttime show that was a little more adult, and then they had a Saturday morning one that we probably all watched that was like very heavily edited, and that's where they would put the bushwhackers on and stuff, like the more kid friendly stuff.
Dakota, they took my Magic cards in the 8th grade when Revised came out. That was when let's see, that was 93, I think. I started playing Magic Revised is when I got in. And I remember it was a thing. We would play Magic at lunch every single day, and people would like bring their lunch money in and like spend it on buying Magic cards off people instead of on lunch at like 7th, 8th grade for me. And then I remember the same thing came down. They're like, okay, Magic is banned because Wrath of God is evil, and all that stuff that was in the old school.
Yeah, that's so crazy.
Magic days. It was funny back then too. You would get pissed when you'd open a pack and hit a dual land, and be excited when you hit a Sarah Angel. And boy, oh boy, if I could go back in time.
Oh man, I have to think. I wonder. Maybe I didn't have alpha. Maybe I had like beta, or who knows? Maybe it was unlimited. But I just think, man, what happened to my cards, man? Where are all my Magic cards? They just gone.
I went through multiple phases. Magic is another one that I got in heavy during Revised. 8th grader, had no money to spend on it, but I probably had some cards that were probably worth money today because it was Revised, and never played during Alpha Beta, and then fell off of it for a while. Came back in college in a big way and spent way too much money on it, and had legit stuff. Like I had a lot of dual lands. I had a lot of really nice stuff. And then probably both smartly and probably kicking myself now, sold most of that stuff to get out of credit card debt that I got into from buying Magic cards in the first place. I sold off a very expensive Magic collection to basically knock a lot of that out, which was probably smart at the time.
I think that's probably the right decision.
I was probably 20 and had like $5,000 in credit card debt, and most of it was Magic the Gathering related.
Oh yeah. Pay that.
And then, giving an 18-year-old a credit card without really understanding, not that my parents gave me when I signed up for it on my own, but, an 18, 19-year-old with a credit card, getting back into Magic and being like, I could just buy boxes and just pay for this later. This is fantastic.
Yeah, totally.
Because I'm a 19-year-old college kid working, 2 jobs. I can't really afford whatever they were back then, probably $70 for a booster box.
Right. It's like, but like 3 paychecks from now, I can totally buy this.
Yeah, like the Odyssey Onslaught block was a very expensive time for me, but I played pretty hardcore back then. And then, like I said, I had acquired a lot of like dual lands and stuff, and picked up stuff like that, and sold most of it off to pay off that credit card debt. But if I would have rode that, if I could have figured out a different way to do it, I'd have been sitting pretty 20 years later.
Yeah, I'm very tempted to buy a lot of like high-end vintage or high-end like alpha stuff. I'd love to like grab some stuff, but every time I think about, maybe doing a 4-figure alpha card purchase, I always just think like, but then there's a comic book I want that's this much money. It's just hard for me to commit.
Yeah. Someone asked in chat, where was it? I missed it. Someone was asking about if you did the cinematic on a certain Magic release. I'm trying to find it in the chat now. Where was that at? I meant to circle back to it, and then I missed it. Have you, so just kind of speaking about Magic, I talked about this earlier. Do you still follow like the current releases or anything, or no? Like,
yeah, I mean,
are you up on this Lord of the Rings craziness?
I know a little bit about it. I didn't work on anything for it because like I just did like the Magic stuff. Magic as in like their.
Did you work on the War of the Spark trailer?
Oh no, I didn't work on War of the Spark. That was before I got there. But I know War of the Spark is one of the all-time great trailers. I've done the last few years of them, which I think War of the Spark maybe was 4 years ago.
Yeah, War Spark was right before pre-COVID, I think.
Yeah,
Like that was
yeah.
right before COVID. Was War of the Spark. Yeah, but like everyone's losing their mind for the Lord of the Rings collector boxes because of the one of one.
Yeah, the 1 of 1 card, which is I think
Yeah,
it's
$2 million bounty right now for it.
Yeah. Who has the bounty on it? Who put that up? Just
There's
somebody.
a bunch of different people that have bounties on it. I forget who has the $2 million one.
That's wild. I mean, it seems like they're probably killing it right now, right? Like it's selling pretty well. I get the sense.
Yeah, I mean, based off of kind of what I've seen, and my go-to for Magic stuff is Alpha Investments, like the rest of the world.
Yeah.
It seems to be selling extremely crazily. I know. So he said the video that he did today, he said he sold 2% of the print run on his Patreon sale. And
2% of what he owns, or 2%?
No, 2% of the total print run. He passed through his hands.
Wow.
Okay. And I'm a member of his Patreon and I buy stuff from him. He ran that sale last Friday. He posted it at 9:00 for $400 a box. I think the max you could buy was 3 or 6 boxes, and then you could buy a single box, and they were all $400 a piece, which was about $50 to $75 under market value. Like they're actively selling on eBay for $450 to $475, give or take, or $420, whatever. It was under market value by at least $20 to $50, depending on where you're buying at. He posted them at 9:00, and he sold out in 4 minutes.
That's pretty crazy. I mean, but here's the problem is like, I mean, what a genius thing, because this is literally a Willy Wonka golden ticket, right? Like it's like, well, maybe you shouldn't open them, but then how are you going to find it if you don't break these boxes? So I guess the longer, I mean, if someone actually finds it, then that's, you got to imagine that the box prices are just going to crash after, right?
It depends, because there's a lot of other stuff that's kind of like what he's been talking about lately, and I haven't like dug into this a lot personally, that there are a lot of other cards from the collector's boxes that you can only get in the collector's boxes that are selling for good, strong prices.
Yeah.
So he's theorizing that even if the 1 of 1 is pulled, it's not going to affect box prices that much.
Right. I mean, there's always,
it also depends on how far in does it get pulled. So like it releases this weekend, essentially, is the official release. I ordered 1 box from him. I haven't gotten it yet, but if it's pulled like this weekend, it probably has more of an effect than if it gets pulled in 6 weeks, because a lot of this stuff's going to get ripped, and wax is the one thing that there's always less of.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, every time a box is opened, it becomes slightly more scarce.
Yeah. I shouldn't say tank. I should say like, would there be like a pullback in the value?
Probably. I think it depends when it gets pulled.
There's still going to be people who want the sealed product, who love Lord of the Rings. There's still going to be great cards in there and stuff like that. I was just thinking.
Yeah, it definitely seems like it is a loaded product.
Yeah.
For sure. We'll see how it holds up.
Yeah. I've had a few. I kind of just bought a couple of the collector booster boxes for the last few sets. Basically, I've been buying the sets that I've worked on, just because more of a nostalgia thing for me, as something that's like, cool, I worked on this. Yeah. But
I didn't
do Lord of the Rings.
I have a small stash of sealed Magic wax sitting behind me on the shelves. I have like the Dominaria United, Brothers War.
Yeah, all that stuff I worked on. Yeah,
Double Masters. I have a sealed case of Double Masters collector boxes. I forget what else. I like actually buying which they don't like spike. It's a much more longer hold. I like buying the Commander decks for certain sets.
Oh yeah.
Like I have the Warhammer 40K Commander decks sealed in a case, like the full 4 deck set. I picked up 2 of the Lord of the Rings ones because that one seems to be like it's a pretty good Commander set. So I have some of those. But yeah, sealed Magic is a weird, interesting spot right now. I don't know what Pokemon does. Someone asked about Pokemon doing serial numbered stuff. I don't know what your relationship to Pokemon is, but they don't really need to right now. Pokemon's still super popular. Not saying that they couldn't get there, and they probably will eventually do one day, but even in a down market, Pokemon still sells a crap ton of product, even though the box prices have not been holding up as well as the previous one, but still.
Is this 1 of 1 thing something that's in the sports card world as well? in
Yes.
any kind of way? Okay.
Oh, they've jumped the shark on it. It's so bad.
But why has this Lord of the Rings one, I feel like, captured the collectible space more than other things?
I think it's because it's the first time they've done it
Okay.
and the property. So I think it's both.
Right.
I think there's a lot of people that really like Lord of the Rings. There's a lot of people that really like
Right.
Magic, and this is
Hitting
their
more.
first time. This is their first time pulling this lever because they've
Got
done
it.
numbered cards before. Brothers War, I think, was the first set that in the collector's
Yeah, they
boxes
had
they had
numbered.
numbered
Yeah.
cards.
Yeah.
Because I have a couple boxes of that sitting back there just as a just in case. And I think it's a combination of that. Now in the sports card world, it's completely so overdone, it's ridiculous. So a player will have in one particular set, I'll use Select as an example because that's the one that's always tossed around, which is not the most popular product for a particular year, but it is pretty popular. It is one of the top probably 3 to 5 sets that comes out in a given year for a sports card product, regardless of sport. A player in that will have 20 to 30 different one of ones.
Mm.
So then it's kind of like, what are we doing?
Yeah, I guess more the equivalent would be like, I mean, they'd have to do something special, like a crossover thing, like a LeBron James, but like in a Dodgers uniform, or like Spider-Man Yankee card crossover thing, or something crazy. In order to be the equivalent, where it's like you're having 2 different audiences with Lord of the Rings and Magic.
Sports is so far into serialized cards, and someone, Jay makes a comment here, in 5 years we'll laugh about serialized and the hobby importance. Sports has jumped the shark on serialized cards, in my opinion.
I wanted to ask you
too far.
I wanted to ask you about the video you talked about with the eBay pulling breaker stuff, which again is a little bit of a sidebar, but you just had reminded me of jumping.
Yeah, we can circle back to that in a second. Yeah. But yeah, serial cards in sports have 100% jumped the shark, and I think that's where does Magic, if they truly keep it rare and they don't bust this out for every single set, I think it is a thing. The problem is they're going to see how well this did, and they're a publicly traded company. It's going to be like they're going to get pressure to just do it again. Like, hey, you did it with that, and look how successful it is. What do you mean we're not doing that in this set? Like, someone that doesn't understand the market that's sitting in a boardroom where multiple people are going to be like, what the hell are you doing? Like, where's our serialized card in this set? What are you doing?
Yeah. Well, Rudy had talked about a little bit about it too, where you saw like Dominaria United had they found like the warehouse find
Lost Legends.
Like, so they put cards in there. So it's like, okay, here's that gimmick, and that's cool and that's fun. And then Brothers War, they did like serialized. So that's like that gimmick. And then now they're doing the Lord of the Rings 1-of-1 gimmick. So like it's a very clear thing that they now have to do. What's going to be this set's gimmick? It can't just be a set. It's got to be something special. So whether or not it's a 1-on-1 thing, they're going to have to figure out, like you said, like some serialized type thing, whatever. And eventually, like these things all lead to shark jumpings,
Yes. And I think they're circling back around. There's rumors that they're going to circle back around to the whole, I don't know what it would be called, but to use the term Lost Legends, that's probably going to be again in a product coming up. I don't know if it's going to be Legends, but it's going to be another, like, we're reinserting these old cards into modern packs.
Well, that'll be,
or whatever.
That'll be drama, right? Because it's like it's one thing to be like, hey, we found a warehouse of this stuff and we're totally legitimately found it and it's honest truth. But it's another thing to be like, hey, we found another one.
I mean, they could always go on the secondary market and buy sealed boxes and rip them if they really wanted to. Like, if they wanted to do it,
I guess, they could do that.
It's not like you could go buy sealed boxes of Legends if you really wanted them. They're not cheap, but you could go get them and rip one or rip however many you needed to fill out the product. It's not like Wizards of the Coast doesn't have the money. And to be honest, I wouldn't be surprised if they had a vault that they have like a stash of all this shit sitting in from over the years.
They could have a vault of it for sure.
Yeah, and it could even have been stuff sent back for like damage replacements or
Yeah.
whatever. Maybe they're like, "Hey, we don't need these at this point. Let's do some marketing gimmick with them."
It's
But
it's very interesting. Side note, not to promote, but like in doing my comic book, I did like a Kickstarter for my own comic, and dealing with printing and getting it, and then having damaged copies and getting replacement copies and stuff. And I'm just like, oh man, like the idea that the print counts are exact what they say they are is
is a
like,
myth.
no, absolutely not.
Yeah.
Absolutely not.
You see it in sports cards a lot sometimes too. I know there's been some controversy around this recently, and I haven't dug into the details on this, so I don't want to get into this specific thing. But Dan the Cardman's done some videos on this. But you have 100% seen multiple versions of the same, like one of one as example, or like this card's serial numbered out of 5, and this is the 5 of 5, and there's 2 copies of it because there was one sitting in a vault at Topps or Panini for damage replacement, and somehow it got out on the secondary market.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's reasonable to know that it's like as they go through the printer, they got to do inspections, and there could be damages, like even going from the printing place to wherever next stop warehouse or how are they verified. So you can imagine being like, yeah, we got to have another copy, but yeah, that's bad if it actually gets leaked out there.
Yeah. What did you want to ask about the eBay thing?
Oh, just hear your thoughts about it again, being the slippery slope situation, or seeing the that this could be where it's going. And I actually wrote a comment on your video. I don't know if you saw it, but I mentioned like, it's already an issue in like say like EA Sports and like the Ultimate Teams and things like that, and the loot boxes within video games has already been like heavily discussed as like being gambling or gambling adjacent. And I feel like, yeah, at some point this is all going to, either it's not going to get addressed because there's going to be lobbyists on sides of it, or it's going to be heavily addressed and it's going to be a huge issue.
Yeah, it's like one of those things. It's like everyone looks at it and they're like, yeah, this is gambling, but legally it's not because of whatever weird little carve out rules or whatever it is that they follow to make it not, even though everyone looks at it and be like, wait, you're telling me I could give you $500 and maybe it turns into 10,000 or maybe it turns into 0? Like that's literally gambling, but like it's not defined that way at all. And which people kind of commented on this over. I did a follow-up video where it was basically like, breaking is unregulated gambling essentially. And so people in that video, and I agree with this, and I kind of hinted about this in that video where I discussed it. Fanatics is the lord of everything now when it comes to sports cards. And they would take a hit for sure because gambling is not legal in all 50 states yet. And I don't know the individual breakdown of where it's legal and where it's not. So they would take a hit if this happened, but ultimately they would come out the biggest winner if gambling regulation actually came to sports card breaks and said, hey, it is gambling. You have to have a gaming license or whatever. You have to jump through all these hoops. Fanatics has a sports betting apparatus. They have all the gaming licenses already. Now, I don't know if that one-to-one applies over, but regardless, they have a huge jump over everybody else in the industry because they're already doing sports betting. So if regulation came, it would literally wipe out 95% of their competition, hurt them, but also literally wipe out 95% of their competition.
Yeah. And you wonder about, is there even, morality wise, do they even care? Because it feels like sports and sports betting have become even more like tied together as like a thing. And I think the sports betting is in large parts a huge part of the ecosystem of sports as a profitable business. So I feel like I don't know if anyone's going to go on the crusade to like take down, whatever the box break thing because it's sports betting or whatever. I don't know. I feel like there's too many interested parties in this stuff. I don't know.
Sure, but then there's also someone that's going to sit there somewhere and be like, wait, there's how many people breaking on Whatnot and Fanatics Live and eBay Live right now? That's how many licensing fees we could get or how many percentage points that we could be getting as part of this as the government. Like, at some point in time, it swings the other way and someone's going to sit in a room somewhere and be like, wait, we can make money off of this. Yeah. Or some lobbyist is going to kick me in on the back end to either go one way or the other. Because like I said, if regulation came, I feel like Fanatics would be the biggest winner in that because they're already a step ahead of everybody else.
Yeah.
So to a degree, they could almost be backdoor pushing for it. Like I said, it would hurt them because gambling's not legal in every state, so it would immediately eliminate a bunch. It would definitely be a hit to them, but it would also kind of immediately leave them as the last man standing.
Right. Yeah,
because no one else is in a position to immediately. And like I said, I don't know that it would be an exact 1-to-1, but they would have a huge leg up on everybody else. Like all the Whatnot sellers, like what the hell would they do? Because you're like an individual on a platform. You're not a conglomerate like Fanatics is. Like so, and Fanatics is launching their own live streaming platform. There's going to be interesting days for Whatnot ahead between eBay Live and Fanatics Live. I mean, Whatnot's huge. Don't get me wrong, but if you're breaking on Fanatics Live and because you're breaking on Fanatics Live, you have an agreement with Fanatics most likely to be in their breaker program, which means you are getting discounts on product, on wax. So that means you're going to be able to price your stuff cheaper than the guys breaking on Whatnot. So if all of a sudden you're shopping to get in a break, why are you going to pay more to break for the guy on Whatnot that might be perfectly upstanding, or Whatnot has, I don't know. On the comic side, there's tons of nonsense on Whatnot and the sports card side with people not shipping stuff and taking advantage of Whatnot's policies. Does that happen as much on comic books?
Yeah, I feel like there's comics has its own problems and a lot of drama, but like I feel like those types of things. Someone mentioned in the chat earlier about the Pokemon. Was it a Pokemon one where the guy was doing it? And even like I heard about that. Like I feel like that type of shady stuff happens way more in the card space.
I think it's just the nature of, because you're opening packs and you could kind of dip a card out. Whereas a comic, you guys aren't doing. There's not comic breaks. It's usually just like a claim sale or whatever, or you're running an auction.
Which I'm surprised that there's been no like. I mean, I guess it's different. Maybe comics haven't figured it out, but like all these gimmicks like numbered and 1-of-1s and breaks and stuff. Like I'm surprised comics are not doing more comics that are polybagged. And then like one of them has, or there's like variant covers that are like numbered variant covers under these polybags. Like why would
like even just a 1 in 100, even if it's not, if it's not numbered, it's just like, hey, you get 100 polybags of this comic. 1 in 10 are an SP, 1 in 50 are an SSP, and then 1 per case is like the case hit or whatever of the polybag book. I
don't know why they're not doing it, but yes, to your point, cards inevitably has it lends itself to doing some of these kind of more shenanigan stuff. Comics, it's a little harder to pull those shenanigan stuff off.
Yeah. The other thing that you see, which you could do this in comics, is people will, and I've heard of this happening tons of times. Say you sold a, I don't know, ASM 300 and a 9.6 for, I don't know what that goes for these days, like $1,500 now. You print out the shipping label and air quotes ship it, but you never actually ship it. And then they just, the buyer reports it to Whatnot that it never actually sold, the way I understand that this works. And then the seller's like, hey, like I uploaded tracking. I don't know. I guess USPS never scanned it. And then Whatnot, because of their policies, actually covers the cost.
Yeah.
So the buyer gets his $1,500 back, and the seller shipped the ASM 300 and still has it sitting in their inventory. And then they just wait like 6 months or sell it somewhere else or whatever. So they get the 1,500, the buyer gets made whole, and they still have the book. Like I've heard there's been evidence
there must be people taking advantage of that type of thing for sure.
There has to be. So I'm wondering, that would be really the only thing I think you could do on the comic book side, because like you said, there's not like, you're not ripping a pack where you could kind of like take the pack off camera and do shenanigans to sleight of hand a card or something like that. You can't do that in comics as much.
Yeah.
I don't know. How is the Whatnot? I never go on Whatnot for comics. Do you spend any time over there at all, or?
I never do it. To me, it's like, I'm sure you can find the occasional great deal on Whatnot, but it's like, it just goes too slow. It's just, I can't stand it. Like being in the app and like waiting and being, I don't know. There's a lot of problems with it. I'd rather just search on eBay or like other auctions or even a claim sale, at least the claim sale, it's much more clear what your entire inventory is going to be that night. Whatnot, that it
Yeah,
takes too long to just
I
wait
think
for
we've
it to
talked about
drop.
that before.
Yeah.
I would much rather pull up A1 IG live stream and take a quick glance at their wall every
Yeah.
20 minutes than sit and like be locked into a home shopping network style vibe.
Yeah.
But so on the sports card side, I don't know if this is a thing in comics or not. Like there'll be buyers essentially. They will go to a show and spend $50,000-$60,000 on singles at a sports card show, and then take all of those and sell them on Whatnot. And they obviously are coming out ahead. Otherwise, they wouldn't keep doing this over and over and over again.
Yeah.
Is that a thing in the comic book space? Do like the larger Whatnot? I mean, I don't even know who is. What is it like? I assume like Nerdy Girl's probably really big. I don't know. Like,
Yeah.
who's the big Whatnot sellers? Like who's the top three?
I don't know who the top ones are, but Whatnot has definitely become the place to unload your bulk. That's what it's become, but you gotta have good stuff to build up your audience and get people in a room. So you gotta have somewhat decent material, but yeah, there's no better place, especially in the comic book side. Like, card collections kind of like this, but a lot of people who buy comic book collections, let's say you bought like 10 long boxes of comics, the best way to get rid of them fast is going to be Whatnot. So I know a lot of people do it there. And a lot of Whatnot is bulk, if it's just, here's a $5 comic, whatever, here's like a $10 one, just get it on there, get it sold, and just whatever.
But those sellers need inventory. So is that like a thing? Like, will they walk into somewhere like, I don't know, Short Box Con, that you were at recently and be like, okay, cool, I got $50K to spend and I need to buy as much as I possibly can, and I'm going to take it all and flip it on Whatnot over the next week or two? That is 100% a thing in the sports card world.
Okay, so I would say that is a thing I've heard some people do, but that level sound
probably there's only a handful of people that can pull it off,
right? Like if 100%, I've heard people say whatever, they go to a con, they dig through boxes, they pull out like, oh, here's a bunch of Silver Age random stuff, $5
classic covers,
yeah,
maybe some minor
they'll
first
buy it all,
appearances,
and 100% they'll sell it on Whatnot. Yeah
100%. Because and you might know this better than me, like on the sports card side of things, depending who you are, you might sell your stuff for 120% because of the I guess the entertainment factor, I got to buy something from Card Collector 2, or from your perspective, Nerdy Girl Comics or Comic Tom or whatever, or Reggie or you even, like, hey, cool, I'll chip in an extra $5. This is a $10 book. I'll give you 15 for it because I like the work that you do. I don't mind spending the extra couple bucks to help support the channel or whatever it is, whoever the content creator is.
Definitely.
I don't want to say like content creator advantage, I guess, but whatever, influencer advantage. But there's like, you get to go to the show and you're buying at 80% of comps, and then you're selling it on Whatnot for 120 or 115 because people are spending a premium because they're buying from an influencer or whatever term you want to throw around loosely there.
Yeah, 100%. That for sure happens. And I would say that, like you said, I think it's okay up to a point, because it's like, let's say you're buying it for 5 or 10% more. And if in your mind, you're rationalizing it as like, hey, here's my thank you to you for like the stuff that you've done or the content you've made or whatever. Like, if I watch a bunch of Neo Cards and Comics videos, like I'm sitting through ads and stuff, but like I've never given you anything. I've never bought a t-shirt from you, but it's like, hey, I'll buy your sports card and you can get, make your profit and stuff. I can understand that, but for sure there's people where it's like they've already cashed in their hey, here's my tip to you level, and they're just, for whatever reason, like that, their influencer advantage has now officially taken way over.
Yeah, I mean, there's two things. I mean, Whatnot's kind of designed to make you make poor purchase decisions in a regard, because it's a live, you have, what is it, like the 10-second refresh or whatever it is, like you have split second to make a decision on some of this stuff, and unless you're like on point for what something sells for, you get caught up in the moment. I mean, I've done it with eBay auctions before where it's like, I don't care what this sells for. I'm winning this. Like, screw
Oh
this
yeah,
other
yeah,
guy that's
yeah.
bidding against
The
me.
tunnel vision to win. Yeah,
Yeah. And whatnot kind of feeds on that for sure. So I'm sure a lot of it is that. Like, it feels like some stuff goes a little bit higher, especially I think the key is that you have a large following, because I've been in some rooms, you know, I'll just kind of randomly poke my head in every once in a while, just more as like a vibe check than anything else. And it's like, there's like 10 people in the room and stuff's going like way cheaper than it should because there's just not enough buyers in the
yeah,
room. But if you have a decent following at all, it feels like it's a feeding frenzy in some shape or form.
yeah. It definitely feels like that. I've noticed actually more recently a lot of the rooms, like you said, I kind of do it. I kind of just open the app every few weeks just to kind of poke my head in and see like, oh, what's going on in this space. Um, and I noticed that the small rooms now, like I know there's a lot of wasted time. There's a lot of dead air or like people not running auctions. A lot of their buy it nows are there, or they'll like, they're just talking to the chat for like minutes on end, being like, okay, I'm going to start an auction. But like the dollar start price never happens anymore. It's like, I'm starting this at 20 and then nobody bids and then they just move on to the next lot. Like that's kind of what I feel like I've seen.
Yeah, I feel like as the market has come down and everyone, I think a lot of it was just like lockdown. There's just nothing to do. So it's like, sure, I'll fire up this Whatnot app because there's nothing else to watch on TV or nothing else to do
Kind of.
with the
Yeah.
time. And now is like that audience has fallen off. I feel like the smaller sellers obviously get hurt the worst because they don't have the following to support a 30% drop in viewership. And then Whatnot, kind of the algorithm's going to feed people the bigger streamers anyway, and they probably really don't need the help. Like, not I keep going to Nerdy Girl because she's like the one influencer that I probably
That sticks
watch the
out.
most
Yeah.
content for. Yeah, like her, what was that YouTube guide to like X-Men that she did like 10 years ago or whatever. I think I watched that like once a year. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
but like if she logs on to Whatnot, she's instantly going to have X amount of people in her room, just period, full stop. Like, and then of course Whatnot's going to put her on the homepage. So if you're a casual and you're pulling it up, be like, hey, what comics are for sale? It's like, oh, well, there's 500 people in this room. This must be the good room to be in.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know, what do you know, like what is a decent audience for someone in a Whatnot comic auction, or,
I
I
think
shouldn't say auction, just room.
I think that if Comic Tom has one, I think he might get like 200 people, maybe 300, maybe 400,
That's got to be pretty chaotic.
Yeah, that's pretty high, I'd say. I'd say like I see a lot of like 80 people to 100 seems like you got a pretty successful room and like things are selling, and then but most of the time it feels like it's 20 to 30 people.
Yeah, what's A1 get on their IG streams, like 50 to 100? I feel like
Elite, you mean, or A1? I feel
A1,
like I feel like they're 50 to 100 and stuff, or like
yeah.
Elite comics, they get in like 100 people.
And then, so I know I DM'd this to you, and you ended up you did a video on it on that eBay live stream with Art Gen, and that was just I watched part of that. I caught the very tail end of it. Is when I caught that screenshot and sent it to you, and there was what, like 8,000 or 9,000 people in that room or something.
Yeah, that's
and
insane.
They were doing the live bidding on that stuff, and it was absolute chaos.
Dude.
On like the numbers were coming in, so I couldn't even like wrap my mind around what was happening.
That's when you go to bid. It's at like $5. And you're like, yeah, I'll bid that. And then as soon as you hit bid, you're already at like $500. You're like, wait a minute, what? Like I didn't mean to bid
the
that
plus
much.
one on that is a dangerous button to hit.
Yeah,
and I don't know how you. I don't want to say limit that, but like, how do you put a governor on something like that? Because that it almost, the live selling stuff, I feel like it reaches a breaking point where it's like, this actually is not a good experience for the people watching.
Yeah, no, it's not. It also just gets to a strange point where I guess maybe it is the experience of like buying it from somebody or participating with someone as you buy it versus like, it's like, guys, this comic book is on eBay. Like it's just sitting there. You could buy it right there. Like I don't quite understand, because like you said, there's a level where it's like after about 300, 400, 500 people, like it becomes way too chaotic for you to get any sort of deal or buy something at the proper FMV. And I have to imagine that this is going to be maybe something that eBay's going to have to figure out with eBay Live. Like, will anyone really want to be in these rooms that have 1,000 people in them? I don't know.
Yeah. I also wonder if it eventually just gets watered down a little bit, because right now eBay Live specifically is pretty exclusive. Like, not every, like, you have to basically be kind of like tapped on the shoulder and we're like, hey, we're letting you in the room type situation.
Right.
And eventually there's just going to be more people streaming. So it's like, well, you assume anyways. I don't know. I don't know that if they're going to keep going where it's like we have one comic book seller streaming right now and that's it. You know, once you start getting like overlaps, like if, I don't know, to use the same names again, if Tom's selling and Nerdy Girl's selling and you're on there and Reggie's on there and Art Gem's doing an art live stream and all 10 of you are going at the same time, it's going to be a lot different than here's just one of these people on there and all the actions getting filtered to them. Right. But I don't know what eBay Live wants to do, if they want it spread out like that or if they want it more like legit QVC where it's like, hey, this is the comic book hour, here's our premier seller, and then they're going to head off and now we're bringing on Burbank sports cards for the sports card 2-hour segment. You know what I mean? I don't know what their end goal is with it.
I don't know either. I mean, the only advantage it'll be interesting with eBay and maybe it'll be cool because here's what would be nice. You know, when you go into Whatnot, obviously there's no ability to search items. So it'd be nice to be able to be like, hey, is anyone selling whatever, like a Jim?
Who's having their X-Men night tonight? Or who's having Avengers night? Or like A1 does the theme sales every once in a while. They're like, tonight's our Golden Age night. We're gonna do everything, but the focus is gonna be Golden Age. Yeah,
if you could actually search and then get directed to like that room or that sale, that would be actually really, really helpful or nice. But and maybe eBay can do that. You know, if they can integrate their search right now that they have it with their live, like I feel like that would be the a really like, you know, value add to their,
like if I'm searching for an X-Men comic or a sports card or whatever and there happens to be someone that has it in their inventory on a live auction, like it pulls that up off to the side. Like,
like imagine
this might be available on this live right now.
You imagine like you have the list of here's all the ones listed and then like on the sidebar there's like, oh, you know, Swagglehouse's room is going to sell one tonight or whatever, you know?
Yeah, it's on his inventory list for either auction or buy it now.
Yeah.
For tonight, click on this link to go straight to it or whatever. I don't know if that's where maybe it ends up getting to that point. I don't know. Or maybe they keep it more exclusive, you know, like that Art Gem thing was kind of like, is that the norm or is that like a rare thing because it was so wild because you literally have an extremely popular modern artist on the stream literally doing the sketches and remarks live. So it's almost like you're getting it done at the con, but you're sitting at home in your shorts, you know? Yeah. So did that kind of feed into the craziness of that because it was him specifically?
It definitely,
like, I mean, imagine if that was Peach and Peach is doing a similar thing. Like that would be absolutely, the number of people and bidders that would be in there would be insane. Like as popular as she is, like,
it's still novel and people are still interested. Like if Peach does like, she decides I'm going to do a weekly eBay Live thing, then like, sure, by week 5 and 6, it'll be like less, you know, exciting. But I mean, even if you go from 9,000 people in that room to, like you said, it goes all the way down to 500 viewers. It's still hard. Yeah, it's still hard to get a great deal when there's 500 people in the room. You know,
I mean, what does it take for an artist to do a quick signature and a remark? 5 minutes? I don't even know. Is it less than that? Like,
yeah, I mean, I guess it depends what they do, but I would expect 5 for a quick thing and then 10 for maybe a little more advanced thing. And then, you know, go from there. But
so, and I don't know how they were running this sale because I wasn't in there the whole time, but we'll use the Peach example again. Say Peach logs on for her hour and it's like, okay, we're going to open the bidding for 10 minutes and I am going to, we have these 10 covers available. One's a Gwen, one's an X-Men, whatever. If you win, you get to pick the cover and then I will sign it and do a remark of my choosing. You have 10 minutes to bid. And like that 10-minute auction runs and then she starts the signing and the remark live. You're watching her do it live. And during that 10 minutes, the next 10-minute bid is running for the next slot.
Yeah, so the costs are going to be insane.
Over an hour.
No, it's going to be really expensive to get that.
But like as an artist, if you get in on that, like think about how you could do it from home.
Oh, so
You don't
lucrative.
have to interact with anybody. You don't have the line in front of you. It's all automated. And it's just like, I'm going to sit down for an hour. I'm going to do 6 sketches / remarks, whatever. And I'm going to auction off the slots, and they're going to go for whatever the hell they're going to go for. And then I mail the books off.
Well,
Like,
it's
it
interesting.
seems like from an artist perspective, it seems like a massive, like, I would want to participate. I'm not a comic book artist. I have no idea.
Yeah.
But if I had a massive following, that seems like a no-brainer.
Oh, 1,000%. But it begs the question, like, why doesn't she do that right now? Do you think she needs this interface and this ability to do it? Like, couldn't she just go live on her Instagram and kind of do the same thing? Or do you think the protection of the eBay machine itself is what is needed for this, or the whatnot machine or whatever?
I think there's multiples of it. I think that there is like having that consumer protection built in, and also it's bringing you to an audience that doesn't follow you on IG.
Ah, okay. Yeah.
If I'm on eBay
who are ready to spend, right? Who are ready to spend.
If I'm on eBay searching for comic books and all of a sudden I'm seeing this Peach Momoko live stream, maybe I hop in there. And maybe I know who Peach is, but how many people are in comics that don't have an IG account? Probably a lot.
Yeah.
You know, how many people log on and buy Peach books on eBay or ArtGem or whoever that are actively participate and buy their products that don't follow them on any social media? It's probably a large number. It's probably actually a huge percentage.
Yeah, you're probably right. Yeah, I think
social and YouTube feels like this big thing, but I think like we both kind of know, like, in the grand scheme of things, the amount of people that attend a Comic-Con or that are active in the comic book or sports card scene, the percentage of people that are also active in the social media space of those niches is like probably 10%.
Oh, it's so small.
If that.
I've yet to be recognized at my LCS. Okay, every single time I walk in, it is a clear indication that I have no influence on this space.
Yeah. But do you get recognized at cons though?
Yes, I do. Now I have icons, yes. But but in my LCS, I mean that's just kind of like me being flippant about it. But it of course that's the way. Like this space is like 0.1% of the entirety of the whole thing. For sure.
Yeah. So, but like to circle back to that, like for an artist, that seems like a no-brainer. It's like I don't have to deal with anything because eBay's handling all the back end, and it's opening me up to an audience that may be aware of me, but might not be aware that I am live right now. Like you have a bigger chance to get a whale in the room that's just going to go to the wall for a Peach or ArtGem, whatever, insert artist here. That's just going to go to a Matt for a remark.
Yeah.
Because there's also the aspect of I get to watch them do it live, like I am at San Diego Comic-Con or New York Comic-Con.
You know what the other interesting thing too about it is actually now people are thinking or talk about the experience of being in the room and it's on eBay, right? So you get this thing, you get this remark from her, and you know what's different about getting a remark from them on eBay live while 1,000 other people watch it is that your remark becomes infamous amongst these 1,000 people because everyone's going to watch it and be like, wow, that's so cool, blah, blah, blah. Whereas like if you go to the con, you get your remark done and you post it on your Instagram where you only have 50 followers, like nobody knows your remark exists. So now actually it becomes this like FOMO machine. Like now you can you won the bid on eBay for the remark and then you list it on your eBay account for, twice the price and 1,000 people saw it. So they like know of it. So that's kind of an interesting thing too. It's like,
and then it ramps up the FOMO machine for the next slot.
Yeah, exactly.
Like I lost out on the first slot, and now I just sat here and watched Peach knock out this amazing remark on this Ghost Spider cover. And now, look, what do you know? Here goes the next 10-minute auction for the next one. Like I want to feel like, imagine how cool it must feel to be, there's 1,000 people in here watching her do my sketch for me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I just missed out on that. And like, now I need to win this next one,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, like, so like the infamy of the remark, it's like they're one of ones, but one of the problems, I'm sure there's a lot of great one of one comic thing remarks on eBay that you could buy right now that people would buy, but they just don't know they exist. Whereas like with this, people will see them created and then they'll become more infamous. So it's kind of interesting.
Yeah. And then imagine, if you want to take it a step further, what if there was a way to tie that into it being CGC witnessed, like on top of it?
Oh yeah. For sure,
or could
that'll
you
happen.
just like, or would CGC? Well, I know that CGC is weird about the witnessing, but like, I don't know. Would CGC carve out some exception where it's like, oh, we could just pull up the live stream of the video of her remarking this and we're good? I don't know that CGC would do that because they're all about the in-person witness. But like,
You know what? That's
is
really
there some
interesting.
weird like, if someone's sitting if a CGC witnesser is watching the live stream, does that count? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Is there some like weird next level future thing here that we've just tapped into?
Well, you know what I will say, and I just learned this, and I did something with someone. I can't talk about it yet, but because I was going to do a video about this. But let me just say that the signing authentication. I can't say the word.
Authentication.
Thank you. Authentication. Yeah, there are some loopholes in how it's created and how it's done. So it could be that, yeah, a CGC person could just sit in the room and know that it happened, be like, oh, she streamed. As long as she signs a piece of paper that says, yeah, these are my works, then CGC will gold label it.
Or maybe there's some back end thing where Peach says, hey, because it's through eBay and because it's limited. Because remember, let's in this perfect scenario that we've ran out, she's only doing 6 in an hour. So it's not like there's hundreds of thousands of these things.
Yeah.
Maybe part of it is that whoever helps run her stuff says, hey, we'll give you the option for an extra $50, or maybe it's just built into the price. Before it goes to you, we're going to submit it to CGC on your behalf. And because it's coming directly from me, Peach, I'm my own witness, they'll let me do this or whatever. I'm sure there's carve outs like that for the artists themselves to submit, or the actual author or whatever, the person that created the work. If they're submitting themselves, obviously CGC would see like the submissions coming from Peach Momoko. Obviously, like she can witness herself.
Yeah.
So it's like, hey, as part of you winning this remark, I'm sending it to CGC and it'll ship to you directly in a yellow label from that. If you so choose, you could check mark the box or something.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, Peach would just have to want to do the work of that, right? Because it still requires her to ship it and stuff. And that's actually another thing too, is like, yeah, every artist is going to have to be an expert shipper from here on out if they're going to do it in their own pajamas and bedrooms and stuff.
But to me, that's like, if you use that ArtGem stream as like the textbook for what this could be, especially if it's a limited fashion, if it's, hey, once a month we're gonna have Peach on, or once every 3 months and she's gonna do 10 slots.
Oh yeah, this if you're an artist and you have a following and you don't do these things, I mean, you're leaving so much money on the table for sure. Like there's a lot of opportunity for you to profit off of all this stuff.
Yeah, and Shag mentions, because this is a thing too. Like you see these companies go out and gobble up these sellers. Like, hey, we will offer you better terms to sell on our platform. Is that a situation where eBay goes to the artists and say, hey, will you be exclusive to us for online remarks or something like that? I don't know what kind of bag they would have to throw at them, but if they really wanted to do it, they could. You know, I don't know how you know, you couldn't do it completely because obviously there's like in-person con stuff and all that nonsense, but you know, hey, you won't do any of these online on any online selling platform except for ours.
Or well, I think that would be smart for eBay. It would be smart for eBay to do that in some kind of way, or to, you know, get athletes to partake in some kind of, you know, signed card selling and all that stuff. Because Whatnot kind of went the influencer route. You know, it feels like if eBay might want to go the creator route / athlete route.
Yeah, the athlete thing gets tricky because they have deals already with the card manufacturers. So I don't know how that would play with.
Or, well, maybe it's all 3 of them. You know,
yeah,
it's like top.
I can definitely see the angle because that's kind of uncharted territory for an artist specifically. But yeah, if you're a modern day artist and you have a decent following at all, I mean, I don't know, you would know better. Like how many artists could pull off like that ArtGem live stream? Like Peach jumps to my mind because she's the one that I most associate with modern, and then ArtGem as well too. Like J. Scott Campbell could 100%.
Oh yeah, 1000%.
I mean, he could. If J. Scott Campbell's on a live stream and he's going to do, I don't know, how long would it take him to crank out a sketch cover of MJ?
Yeah. I mean,
20
I'm sure.
minutes? I don't know.
Yeah.
Like
I don't know.
not
I don't know.
color, just a straight black and white sketch. Like what would that sell for? You know,
Oh,
what could he sell a slot for a
at
live?
least hundreds, right? At least hundreds.
Probably more, I would think.
Probably more, but it just, let's just say it's a quick, like, I'm gonna draw you a Spider-Man face and do the whole thing, you know. But I don't know
Wait,
how many artists.
he draws men?
Yeah, from time to
I
time.
know,
I mean,
I'm
he's known.
teasing. I'm
Oh,
teasing.
right, yeah. Uh, uh, I feel like there's probably not accountable, more than a countable number of artists. There's definitely enough artists, 50, 60, 100, you know, that probably can command some kind of following at this point.
Yeah, and heaven forbid you got someone like McFarlane on there. You know what I mean?
Oh,
Like
yeah,
someone
yeah.
like really
Jim Lee, Todd McFarlane, Frank Miller,
yeah,
all these names, you know, it's like,
the FOMO I would feel if Jim Lee was doing like X-Men sketches or something. I don't know.
yeah.
Can he do X? I don't know. Is he DC? What's his current
Oh, yeah,
situation?
yeah. Maybe he only do DC at this point. No,
Yeah,
that's
that
not
would
true.
be tricky. Would he be allowed to? Because he's still DC, right? Like,
I bet he has some.
carve
There's like
out for
me working for Warner, and then there's like Jim Lee, myself, who, like, when he goes to a con, like, he's obviously not gonna he's gonna sign Marvel books, and he's gonna, like,
yeah, someone's
no
gonna want to
way.
remark Wolverine or something. Like,
Yeah.
but yeah, could you imagine like if they literally got like as big as Peach and Art Gem and Jay Scott and like those level of artists are, like McFarlane's on a different level, Jim Lee's on a different level.
There's so many artists. Like, just you go to the CGC signings, how many that they're doing now, and it's like there's definitely enough artists that would command huge rooms for sure.
And you only need a handful, really, because it's like, okay, we're gonna circle you through every 3 months or something. Peach, we're gonna have you on every 3 months.
Yeah.
You know, for however long you want to do it. You want to do 2 hours, and you want to do 6 remarks and 4 sketch covers or whatever it is that you want to do. Like, you can have them break it up to a couple different things.
Yeah.
And for the artist, it's like, 2 hours of work or whatever for 10 pieces, and it's like,
it's crazy.
Whatever it is. To me, I like the eBay, like the live selling platform. I want stuff like that. That is something that I would say, like, I'm going to sit here for half an hour and watch this versus going in a whatnot room and watching Comic Tom sell some books.
Yeah.
That's those are two different experiences. Like, I'm getting value out of, or I'm getting entertainment out of watching an artist that I like do live sketch. Even though I'm not bidding on it, I would still probably go in and at least check that out for 20 minutes.
100%. And it's actually crazy now that I think about it. It's like, what is stopping Peach from doing that on Whatnot right now? You know, like, why doesn't she?
Does anyone do anything like that? I don't know.
I don't think so. I don't think so. You know, artists are not sharks when it comes to this type of stuff. Artists are artists. But I think if it dawned on them that it's like, you could just buy a long box of 100 sketch covers and just once a month get on Whatnot and be like, hey guys, I'm doing sketch covers, and you could, rattle them off for 150 a pop.
I think a Peach sketch cover live would go for way more than that. I don't know.
Right. But like, there you go. It's like, when you think about the numbers, like, I bet for sure she can make way more money doing this than actually doing variant covers. For sure.
Probably. Or even signing at a con. Like, signing at a con seems like a nightmare. I mean, there was all that drama last year, to use Peach as an example, at New York City Comic Con, where people were getting pissed off about the long lines and people line dipping and, all the nonsense that was going on with that. So you eliminate all that drama because you're just sitting at home doing it in the comfort of your own home.
Yeah. You
don't have the weird interactions that you probably have in a live environment. And you don't have as much time pressure, because you're not looking up and seeing 500 people in line behind this one. It's like, hey guys, I'm doing 10 tonight. Here's the first one. It might take me 10 to 15 minutes. And then we're going to, while this one's running, I'll auction off the next one. And like we talked about before, it kind of pre-builds the FOMO because someone's literally watching the first one get done. And they're like, oh my God, this looks fantastic. Imagine if I had her do this, but it was, Spider-Gwen or Miles or Rogue or Gambit or whatever, and it's just like, I don't know, the FOMO machine feeds itself.
Yeah It's pretty crazy. I feel like it's definitely something that artists could take more advantage of, for sure.
We're in the wrong line of work. We need to be a consultant for
I know you should be artist manager. I feel like, Rob, this is like a new career path that you could go on. Be like, trust me, I understand the collector mindset. This is what we're doing.
Yeah. Or to your point, like, why is it Whatnot going to these people and saying like, "Hey, Peach, what would it take for like we'll waive all your 1% selling fees or whatever just because of the amount of eyeballs that would bring to have her on there or anyone like that? Pick insert what we keep using Peach because I think she's one of the more well known ones, but
Yeah.
insert whatever major
I think
modern artist that you want here.
there's probably just a lot of customer service aspect that an artist would have to think about now if I'm building a Whatnot thing. Like people will go in her room, but like she's probably got to put in a little bit of work of like advertising it and creating some like building up the audience in that way, and then fulfilling it. Like if she's literally going to do it, like in her whatever, in her living room or something, like
Or her studio,
she's
whatever
got
she
to
has for her
ship it,
studio.
or
Yeah.
or she at least got to put the team together that's going to do the shipping for her or whatever, right? So it's like,
I mean, I feel like she probably already I mean, I don't know how many of those artists sell stuff on the side anyways. I feel like they probably already have a grasp on how to, like when Peach does, when most of those artists do stuff, usually you could buy like the original. A lot of times they'll sell the original prints. So it's not like they don't know how to ship artwork. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You would hope, you would think.
Yeah.
A lot of the artists, I think,
folded in a flat rate that just says "Do not bend" on it in a plastic bag.
I think a lot of artists, for sure, if they don't do this yet, like I think later in their careers they start to realize, oh, I should probably have like my store and do the whole thing, where it's like right now she probably just has a bunch of handlers. Like she just goes to the con, she shows up, she does it, she hands it, she doesn't have to think about it outside of that. My hotel's taken care of, my flight's taken care of. It's not a worry.
Yeah, I show up, they tell me to go to this table, I sign my name, I do some sketches, I do some remarks. Like
it's much easier for that type of service versus like kind of doing it yourself and building it through Whatnot by yourself.
Yeah, but you think those platforms would be aggressively going after people like that if they it seems like a no-brainer.
Well, they did the one Jim Lee thing on Whatnot, and that was kind of it. Like they didn't really make them these like annual or monthly events. I don't know why.
Yeah, because imagine like you hyped it up too for the entire month. Like, hey, this Saturday is Peach Night, and there's only going to be 12 slots or whatever it is that the artist wants to limit it to, depending on their time. Maybe it's 20, maybe it's 30, whatever. Like you have a month to pump that of we are having this live auction. There are very limited slots available. There's X amount of this thing, X amount of this thing, and X amount of this thing. That's a lot of FOMO to build in a very short period of time, let alone before you even actually get to I'm sitting in the live app bidding on it. And then, like I said, it kind of builds as the night goes on as, oh shit, I missed out on that one. There's only 4 slots left. Like if I want one of these this month, I got to go to the wall. Because too, as like a buyer, it would be like, hey, I could go through, as someone that's attended New York City Comic Con, guess what? That's expensive. Like to attend a large con like that where these artists are, that's a large sum of money just to get to the event, depending on where you're coming from. Yeah. Let alone tickets and lodging, or even if you're just in and out for the day, it's expensive.
Yeah.
And then if you're looking at it like a big reason that I'm going is to get some piece of art done by insert modern comic artist here, if I could just spend maybe more than what it would sell for on the second, more than what it would cost to get it done at a con, like if that's all my expense was. But if I'm factoring in travel, I could throw that in towards the bidding of this and still come out cheaper in the end, but it might go for more than what a lot of people would think that it was. Cause maybe the person's like, hey, I'm saving $1,000 on travel to go to this con.
Yeah.
To get this done there. I could buy it at home while I'm, sitting eating dinner. Like,
yeah. Well, I think that I bet that eBay seems like they have the resources to make more of this type of stuff happen more regularly. I bet Whatnot is like, yeah, we should do this stuff. And then, they're kind of an exploding, growing startup. So I bet this is just one of those things where it's like, they just don't really have the infrastructure in place to make these things happen as often.
Yeah, it could be. It feels like that Art Gem stream was kind of like I don't want to say like a turning point, but like an eye-opening thing for like what an artist selling live work on a platform like that could be.
Totally. Yeah.
Especially if you have a big following. So yeah, I don't know. All right. I was not planning on streaming this long. We're going to go ahead and wrap things up here. Anything else? What do you got coming out for content I know we'll do Monday. You'll have like your hot books or whatever, but anything else in spicy in the works? That's
Nothing's particular. I had put out a video yesterday. Yesterday, where I got a Darkhawk double cover, guys.
I haven't watched that yet. I saw the teaser reel that was that Elite put together.
Oh no, I put it together.
Okay. I saw it on Elite's IG page. I hadn't had a chance to watch your video yet.
And
it was funny because I saw that get posted, and I think I was going to tag you in it, and like 80 people already had tagged you in that sales post.
Oh yeah, so that is the comic. So you'll see in my video if you decide to watch it. But if for anything else,
I'm going to watch it. I just haven't got to it
Speaking of Lord of the Rings, the first 2 minutes was a great intro. I spent a little bit of extra time making a funny intro for it. So that I think is worth watching.
Yeah, I saw it was on, I think they posted on their Instagram story. This looks like a Swaggle House intro.
yeah.
Because I didn't realize that you actually got it. Like I saw your posts about like acquiring the Grail, and I didn't put 2 and 2 together. And then I saw the Elite post or the IG reel today. And then I remembered, because that was like a month ago that was on there, not even.
No, it was like a week ago actually.
Oh, was that soon?
Okay. It all happened so fast. Yeah.
I remember seeing that. And like I said, I remember pulling up the comment thing, and I was going to tag you. And maybe I even ended up tagging you anyway, or mentioning you in a comment. But I had seen like there was already like 50 comments of like Swaggle House.
Totally. So, yeah, you'll see someone ended up buying it for me, which was like pretty crazy.
What's the census on the double cover?
As far as I know, it's the only one that exists.
Do they split out double covers or no?
They don't. But I would assume that in all the years I've been memeing about Darkhawk, like if other ones existed, somebody would have like tagged me at one point, or would have been like, "Hey, Swag, have you ever seen this?" Like, so I don't. As far as I can tell, this is the only one.
I mean, double covers by nature are extremely rare, correct?
Yeah,
like even in, like I don't.
Like maybe like definitely not every comic has it, but it's like, yeah, if a comic has it, maybe they have one if it's happened, so it's kind of a rare occurrence for sure.
So do you actually, I was going to wrap up. Now you sent me down a line of questioning. Do you actually really like do you actually really enjoy Darkhawk, like the character, or is this literally just a meme that got out of control?
No, I legitimately like the character. Like
that's kind of what I thought. I just never actually could confirm that. You would always talk about the Marvel Universe Series 2 trading card of him, and stuff. So I thought that there had been like this long history between you and Darkhawk.
100%.
Darkhawk turned into a meme, as regardless of your fandom.
Both things are true. Very quick. Yes, I grew up with the character, loved the character, and then when I got back into comics years later, I actually just thought Darkhawk was cool, and I didn't realize that he was a joke to other collectors. And then so now I just wear him on my sleeve and play up the meme.
Okay. It's worked out well for you. We all have our memes.
Yeah.
So if you're not already, though most of my viewers probably are, you should be subscribed to Swaggle House's channel if you enjoy the comic book stuff, or even if you just want to, as we've both always talked about over the years, even if you're not actively participating in another collectible market, it is not a bad idea to keep tabs on what they're doing. I know, even if you're not actively buying a lot of books, it's interesting to kind of see what's going on that side of the street, and like even on the TCG side of things. I think a lot of people go to Rudy from Alpha Investments to, even if they're not active in that space, just to kind of see what's going on in the TCG world, or whatever it is.
100%. I mean, I love Rudy, and I mean, I like Magic, but I don't collect Magic, but I watch just to hear about Magic.
Yeah, there's a lot of things are the same across the different markets. There's so many similarities, and then there are some things that are just wildly and completely different.
Yeah,
it's always interesting, and it's interesting to see how the markets kind of either move in tandem, or one leads and then the other one tends to follow, and all that sort of stuff is always interesting. So thanks, chat. Glad I kind of fired this up at the last minute. Thanks for popping on. Swaggle was
thanks for inviting me.
Last minute guest. And like I said, if you're not, go check out Swaggle on the various social media platforms, and we will catch you boys and girls on the next one.